Within the lifeline, there were tunnels that went everywhere. However, the destination of all the tunnels gathered there. It was the core area of the lifeline, and also where the lifeline was located at. At that place, corpses formed mountains. Blood formed rivers. The stench of blood spread to every single corner. But no matter how much more soul-shocking that scene was, it was not as terrifying as the object in the middle of the hall. It was an oval rock, 10 meters long, 7 meters wide, 5 meters tall, and blood-red colored. It had symbols all over it, and it endlessly made puffing sounds. If one looked more closely, they could discover that it was throbbing. How was that even a simple rock? It was just like a huge heart, a heart of a monster, as how could humans have such an enormous heart? There were dozens of people surrounding that heart, and they formed a circle. The positions they were standing on was in a certain pattern, and it was like a defense formation. Their strength was extremely strong as well. The weakest were at the peak of the origin realm, and 6 of them already entered the profound realm. That male who had a well-built body had the cultivation of the 6th level of the profound realm. However, at that moment, his face was ghastly white. His left hand was covering his chest as blood slowly flowed out. His aura was extreme unstable. Although he had the cultivation of the 6th level of the profound realm, it seemed like a portion of his power was sealed, and he only had the cultivation of the 5th level of the profound realm at that instant. That was the master of the White Tiger Villa, Murong Yunluan. Surrounding Murong Yunluan were several hundred people who were confronting him. Although the personal strength of the group was not as strong as Murong Yunluan's group, their cultivation was not weak, and their total strength could be said to be fairly equal to Murong Yunluan's group. Within the group of people, the male who was the leader had a pretty similar face as Murong Yunluan, but clearly older. That person was Murong Yunluan's elder brother, Murong Yangyuan. He was the 2nd expert of the White Tiger Villa, and had the cultivation of the 5th level of the profound realm. Other than Murong Yangyuan, there was another powerful person who was at the 1st level of the profound realm within the several hundred people. However, that person's figure was quite short, and he wore a gray-colored cloak. That gray cloak was extremely bizarre. Not only did it conceal the appearance of that person, there were even many symbols printed on them. The patterns of the symbols were even more profound than Zhuge Lian's white cloak. It was quite unfathomable, but with a glance, they could feel that it was not simple. My younger brother, trust me, I am thinking for the White Tiger Villa. Murong Yangyuan held a black-colored longsword. There was blood dripping from the sword, and it was evident that the person who wounded Murong Yunluan was his own elder brother. Rubbish. This lifeline is the foundation of the White Tiger Villa. If the lifeline perishes, the villa will die. You want to destroy this lifeline today. It means that you want to destroy the White Tiger Villa and become a traitor. Yet you dare to say things so righteously. Cough, cough, tilde, tilde, tilde. Murong Yunluan's voice was extremely furious, and from that, he spat a mouthful of blood out. He then violently coughed, and it truly tore his heart and split his lungs. It could be seen that he was not injured lightly. Brother, don't be so stubborn. You should know that the current White Tiger Villa exists only in its name. It no longer has the flourishing might back in our ancestors' years. Right now, it cannot even be compared to the Azure Province's first-rate schools. It can only be compared to the trash-like second-rate schools. With the appearance of some random power, they could annihilate the White Tiger Villa. What use is there in leaving the White Tiger Villa like that? It would be better to open this lifeline and enter that dead zone. As long as the dead zone can be entered, we can have everything that our ancestor had that year. At that time, us 2 brothers can grasp a martial skill that slaughters everything. We can have power that break the heavens, and our White Tiger Villa can become the overlord of the 9 provinces. Murong Yangyuan said, "You are speaking rubbish. The ancestor has clearly left words behind. The secret of the dead zone cannot reappear, or else the world will be chaos. This lifeline cannot be touched. If it is broken one day, everything will instantly perish within the circumference of 10,000 miles. All living matters will become charcoal, and the 9 provinces will be destroyed in a single day." Murong Yunluan pointed his fingers upwards. On the ancient cave walls, there were indeed words that stated that. The words themselves were engraved deeply and powerfully, and it was as though they were inscribed with a finger. However, every stroke was several meters long and over 1 meter deep. The strength that was used was extremely terrifying. Look, this is the teachings of our ancestor. And this is also the reason why our ancestor guarded this place. If you dare to touch it, he will certainly reappear, and at that time, even I won't be able to save you. Murong Yunluan warned. Murong Yunluan, don't worry. Your ancestor, Murong Xiaoyao, is no longer in the world of living, or else he would have showed himself after so much happening in the White Tiger Villa. Also, I can open this lifeline but not destroy it. I can protect your White Tiger Villa and avoid any disasters happening to the Azure province. Just at that time, a strange voice that seemed experienced was emitted from within the gray cloak. Who are you? It's you that is spreading lies to everyone and tricking my brother to do such immoral acts. Murong Yunluan was furious. He raised his hand, palmed, and the nearby profound power condensed. The entire lifeline trembled, and it was as if a huge mountain came down from the sky, wanting to crush everything. That power was simply too strong. Almost all who were at the origin realm were forced back. Even profound realm experts had no way of resisting against it. However, when facing that attack, the gray-cloaked person did not even move. It was as if that person had absolute confidence in being able to hold that strike back. Boom, suddenly, a body flashed by. Murong Yangyuan was like a ghost as he appeared in front of the gray-cloaked person. He raised his fist into the air and also exploded some shocking power out. He cancelled Murong Yunluan's palm attack. Strong ripples surged in the air, and huge booms resonated to every single place. The tension in the entire lifeline rose to the extreme. If it wasn't for the two profound realm experts who revolved their own pressure and cancelled the ripples, all of the origin realm experts would have been shook to death by the ripples. That was the scariness of those at the profound realm. In the profound realm, after a level of breakthrough, one would gain overwhelming power. When the two experts who had the strength of the 5th level of the profound realm fought, there was truly might that would shake the world. Brother, can you be so disrespectful to this mister? He is a guest of my White Tiger Villa and he is helping us. Murong Yangyuan bellowed. Nonsense. How can an outsider think for my White Tiger Villa? Clearly, he came here for the secrets of the dead zone. This person has malicious intents. How can you believe his words? Murong Yunluan quivered from anger because the person who made his brother an enemy, and the person who was the ringleader of the mutiny in the White Tiger Villa, was that gray-cloaked person. The reason why his strength was sealed to the 5th level of the profound realm, from the 6th level of the profound realm, was because of the black sword in Murong Yangyuan's hand. That black sword was also granted by that gray-cloaked person. You are correct. I did come for the secrets of the dead zone, but I will not monopolize it. I will share it with you. And like I said, I will not cause any disasters to the Azure province. But if you don't believe me, there is nothing I can do about that. Murong Yangyuan, no need to waste any more words. Attack, the gray-cloaked person said indifferently. Brother, if you don't move, you cannot blame me for being heartless. Murong Yangyuan gnashed his teeth and his gaze glittered. It could be seen that he was unable to detach his feelings. You traitor, don't pretend to be so kind. You even killed the 6th protector, yet you are still acting around like that. White Tiger's 5 protectors, the elites of the villa, follow me and kill all these traitors. Murong Yunluan was enraged. He yelled and the profound power in his body rose to the sky. At the same time, the 5 profound realm protectors and dozens of people at the peak of the origin realm emanated their power out from within their body. The tyrannical power condensed into the air and formed into dozens of huge rhinoceroses. The rhinoceroses were condensed from origin power and profound power, yet it seemed as if they were real, being vivid and realistic. The most important thing was that their body had a layer of light emitting from them. That light enveloped Murong Yunluan and the others, and they gave off indestructible and unstoppable might. Asterisk roar asterisk suddenly. The group of rhinoceroses suddenly roared like a tiger as they walked on air and went. They started to madly run towards their surroundings, and every step they took, everything around them would shake, as if they could stamp over everything and flatten all. That was a type of formation, a formation that had both attack and defense. The might of that formation was equivalent to the full power of experts who were at the 6th level of the profound realm, and the power was extremely terrifying. Brother, after this, you will know that I am really thinking about the White Tiger Villa. I am doing the correct thing. Murong Yangyuan tightly frowned, then loudly yelled, "Set formation." After that was said with him as the leader, the origin power of several hundred people rushed out. The origin power surged, and they were like waves in a storm. They rushed forward in midair, wave after wave, and attacked the rhinoceroses. At the end, they even became a vicious, evil wolf. There were too many wolves, and they were simply countless as they fought with the rhinoceroses. Although the power of the wolves could not be matched to the rhinoceroses, the amount was simply too terrifying. The two intertwined, and both of them had no way of even going half a step forward. They collided where they stood, and the ear-piercing booms resonated endlessly. Strong ripples devastated everything, and the ground shook as though there was an earthquake. Tiny cracks even appeared on the specially created cave walls. The collision force was too strong, and the confrontations were very scary as well. The more frightening thing was that, because of the formations, the profound and origin power from both sides were very sufficient, and that confrontation lasted for a long time. However, no matter how strong it was, there would be a time of exhaustion. When those two tyrannical formations collided for several hours, almost everyone in the origin realm fell. Their origin power was sucked dry, and there wasn't even a single trace left. They were like people who were going to die as they laid on the floor, without even moving in the slightest. Only Murong Yunluan and the 5 protectors sustained. As for Murong Yangyuan, he was in worse position. Within the several hundred people, only him and the gray-cloaked person stood. The gray-cloaked person was only silently observing everything and did not attack. Murong Yangyuan was not weak as well. The black sword in his hand kept on giving out strange power, and the power was being imbued into his body, layer by layer. It was that strange power that allowed him to fight 6 people as one without being disadvantaged. Traitor, even if I consume my remaining life, I will kill you too. Suddenly, Murong Yunluan yelled, and the profound power in his body rushed out like the tide, exploded out like a volcano, and his power instantly multiplied. As for the 5 protectors behind him, they seemed to have also been affected by his will, and they surged all the profound power within their body out and sent it towards the formation. They wanted to eliminate Murong Yangyuan and the gray-cloaked person in one strike. The full power of 6 profound realm experts formed a huge rhinoceroses in the air. That might was completely incomparable to before. It even surpassed the might of dozens of rhinoceroses previously. My younger brother, don't blame me for being heartless. Murong Yangyuan abruptly clenched, and the black-colored longsword became black-colored fog. That black-colored fog were like little snakes as they drilled into his right arm. Strange and strong power condensed out. Sky-breaking punch. Suddenly, Murong Yangyuan punched out. There was no gas that condensed out, but that might was unstoppable, as if it really could break through the sky with one punch. Asterisk boom asterisk. When that punch collided with the huge rhinoceros, instantly it became a terrifying profound power vortex, because both sides struck out with their full power without restraining themselves. So when the profound power vortex swept across, no one was able to hold it off. When the profound power vortex swept past, it was like the end of the world. Those who were at the origin realm spat a mouthful of blood out, and many people became forcefully unconscious. That power was not something that they could endure. After that, when the terrifying, profound power vortex disappeared, people discovered that everyone was still alive and well. Although they were a bit injured, Not a single person died by that terrifying, profound power vortex. Just at that time, people also astonishedly discovered that the gray-cloaked person was still standing there. Purple light condensed within that person's hand, but it quickly dissipated. "You saved us." Murong Yunluan felt that it was unbelievable. Clearly, that person had malicious intent. So, why save their lives when that person had came for the secret of the dead zone? Like I said, this person is a good person. He did not come to harm us but to help us. Murong Tangyuan explained. Nonsense. He is tricking you so that we both kill ourselves. Right now, my White Tiger Villa people has suffered from heavy injuries and death. All because of him. You said he is thinking for us. Murong Yunluan angrily shouted. He was really going mad. Because of his idiotic elder brother. The gray-cloaked person did not pay any attention to the disputes of the two brothers, and he only walked towards the lifeline, one step at a time. After arriving in front of it, he started to create a formation. As it revolved, the heart-like lifeline shrunk. When it disappeared, a huge black hole emerged out. That was not a simple black hole. It was condensed and created by gas, and it was like a black-colored vortex. It was slowly swirling, and it was as if it had an engulfing power. People would shiver with just a glance, and it was as though after entering, they would have no way of coming back out. It separated life and death. However, not only was the gray-cloaked person not afraid of such a horrifying, strange black hole, he was even happy. Although his face could not be seen, one could feel his state of happiness from his body. He walked towards the black hole, but when he arrived in front of it, he stopped, lightly turned his head, looked at Murong Yongyuan, then said, "Your younger brother is correct. The secret of this dead zone is quite exceptional. Why would I share it with you? You tricked me, you." Poof Murong Yongyuan's fury attacked his heart, and a mouthful of his heart's blood was sprayed out. After that, he powerlessly laid on the ground. Although his body was violently moving up and down, he did not have the power to get himself up. It could be seen that his anger wounded him quite a bit. While looking at that situation, Murong Yunluan could only slowly close his eyes. Helplessness and sorrow was all over his face. Although this matter was done all by his elder brother, he still had an unavoidable responsibility. If he had to blame something, he could only blame his overtrust towards his brother. He handed most of the decisions to Murong Yongyuan for him to deal with, as he secluded himself to cultivate throughout the day, without asking about worldly matters. If it was otherwise, even if Murong Yongyuan was being used by someone, it would be impossible for them to have such huge losses. However, no matter what, the strength of the White Tiger Villa was greatly diminished. The lifeline was already broken and danger was truly close. He did not believe that the gray-cloaked person could protect the White Tiger Villa, nor did he believe that he would do so. Rumble, but just at that time, rumbling sounds came from the strange black hole. That sound was very odd. It was as if it came from far away, but just by hearing that sound, it made people extremely uneasy. It was as though a scary object was going to be born. Ha 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 ha, you think you can get everything from my ancestor. You think you have the power. You think you are qualified. Under this lifeline is the dead zone. Within the dead zone, there is an extremely terrifying thing locked there. If you open the lifeline, you will release it out. It will completely destroy the Azure province and the continent will perish. You will not get anything. You will die just like us after being killed by it. Murong Yunluan crazily laughed. He was in despair. He firmly believed in the words that his ancestor left behind, and he knew that all of them were going to die at that place. The entire Azure province, or even the continent, was going to face a calamity. HMPH. The gray-cloaked person only coldly snorted and jumped into the strange black hole with a whoosh. The weirdest thing was, soon after the gray-cloaked person entered, the scary rumbling noises slowly settled down until it completely disappeared. The more important thing was that the strange black hole also gradually shrunk, and it seemed like it was going to close. The lifeline is destroyed, but the White Tiger Villa has not perished yet. Everyone, quickly enter the black hole. That is the dead zone, and we could very possibly get everything that Murong Xiaoyao had. Seeing that, someone suddenly yelled. After that voice rang out, everyone tried their best to climb towards the black hole, but they did not have any strength. They could really be said to be unable to move an inch forward. Although the black hole was extremely near, they had no way of getting closer. Many people unceasingly regretted. Some roared, some bawled, some did not even have the strength to do either. Asterisk ta 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 asterisk just at that time, hurried footsteps constantly neared. Following that, a person ran like light, and at the end, they stood in the middle of the lifeline. It was Chu Feng and Murong Xinyu. Father. After seeing Murong Yunluan, Murong Xinyu quickly ran over and jumped into her father's embrace. Chu Feng diligently looked at his surroundings. From the words that he heard just now, Chu Feng was aware that there was an even stronger character there. But clearly at that moment, that person was gone. Chu Feng quickly entered the black hole. Without a doubt, that is the entrance to the Emperor Tomb. When Chu Feng's gaze was cast towards the black hole, Egge's pleasant voice rang out, and it was unusually excited. Almost at the same time in which Egge spoke, Chu Feng ran towards the black hole. At that instant, the black hole was already extremely small. Chu Feng had no way of stepping into it, so he could only clap his hands together, and with a diving posture, he plunged into the black hole head first. After a short moment, the black hole completely closed and disappeared from the lifeline. It was as though it never appeared before, and it did not leave any traces behind. At that instant, many people were extremely disappointed. They felt like they missed a chance to become an expert of their time. After all, the Murong Xiaoyao that year became such a powerful person, after getting certain good things after he entered the dead zone. But also, there were many people that calmed down. They thought when the lifeline perished, some terrifying creature would be released. From that, the White Tiger Villa would be instantly destroyed, and naturally, their lives would not be kept as well. However, such things did not seem to be happening. Father. Murong Xinyu settled comfortably next to Murong Yunluan as tears filled her face. Xinyu, who was that young man just now? Why have I never seen him before? Murong Yunluan was still staring at the place where the black hole disappeared, and there were some ineffable emotions in his heart. He's Chu Feng and he is a world spiritist. However, he is not a bad person. On the journey, if it wasn't for him who protected me, I had no way of returning back here alive. Speaking to that point, Murong Xinyu fiercely shot a glance at the nearby Murong Yangyuan. He was the biggest criminal in the White Tiger Villa right now. World spiritist, huh? Murong Yunluan seemed to be contemplating. He firmly believed the words of his ancestor, Murong Xiaoyao. If the lifeline perishes, the villa dies. However, at that moment the lifeline was broken, yet the villa was completely fine. He had doubts on whether the gray-cloaked person did something, but he had even more doubts on whether the gray-cloaked person, who was at the first level of the profound realm, had that kind of strength or not. At the same time, Chu Feng entered a dream-like realm. Everything surrounding him was pitch black, and strong attraction led him quickly forward. After who knew how long, dazzling light was emitted in front of Chu Feng's eyes. Simultaneously, the surrounding darkness slowly faded away. When his feet stably stood on the ground, his surroundings completely changed. It was like a palace because it was very luxurious, several times more when compared to the lifeline above. It was simply the most luxurious place that Chu Feng had ever seen before. It was like a huge formation because symbols were engraved everywhere. They were all interconnected with glittering lights, and it was as though it was a huge net that enveloped the area. It was like a tomb because in the center of all that, there was a round stage. In the middle of the round stage, there was a sparkling crystal coffin. The crystal tomb was transparent. Chu Feng walked onto the stage, and he could clearly see that there was an old man who laid inside the tomb. The old man had snow-like hair, paper-like face, and a dried-up body which was as thin as a stick. However, despite of all that, he still gave an oppressing feeling because when that person was alive, he was a cultivator of the heaven realm. A cultivator of the heaven realm. Haha, this is great. quickly help me absorb this person's source energy. As long as it is absorbed, I can enter the profound realm. When needed, I can transfer my power to you. With your methods right now, you can certainly kill that Gong lion off. Even the Shangyuan family in the Vermilion Bird City may not be able to hold you off. Egge's nice voice sounded out, and at that instant, she was so excited that she never-endingly jumped randomly in the spiritual world. She was like a child when she was happy, because the source energy of a Heaven Realm expert was too attracting to her. Heaven Realm. It's the remains of a Heaven Realm expert. Is this the ancestor of the White Tiger Villa, the person who grasped the strongest attacking method, xianxia? Compared to Eggy, who only wanted to absorb his source energy, Chu Feng had deep respect while looking at the old man. It was because his appearance was too similar to the xianxia from the legends. Who cares about who is he? Quickly open the crystal coffin, or else when that world spiritist returns, you and I will die. Eggy impatiently reminded. World spiritist. The person who came before was a world spiritist. Chu Feng was quite shocked. He never would have thought Eggy, who didn't even see that person's appearance, could know what his identity was. However, after some thinking, it was understandable. Most likely, only world spiritists were able to decipher the so-called lifeline to enter this area, even if that profound realm world spiritist was not equal to Zhuge Liang. He was certainly still quite an impressive character. Thinking to that point, Chu Feng did not hesitate anymore. After opening the crystal coffin lid, he first bowed to that powerful person, who was at the Heaven Realm, before starting to absorb his source energy. It had to be said that the source energy was abnormally strong. It was not comparable to those at the profound realm, and as he absorbed it, Chu Feng was slightly strained. However, in order to completely absorb the source energy, before the world spiritist returned, Chu Feng could only help Eggy absorb it as fast as he could. Haha, this is great. This taste is too wonderful, and my cultivation will finally increase again. After roughly an hour of absorbing, Chu Feng finally, thoroughly took in the source energy from the remains. Eggy was madly happy because after all that, the one who gained the most from it was none other than her. She already entered the first level of the profound realm. Just at that time, Chu Feng was startled as he found out that the complete remains before started to change. The body under the white clothes was quickly shrinking. Blood and flesh quickly disappeared and it became a pile of dried-up bones. Why did this happen? Chu Feng was incomparably stunned. He clearly remembered that absorbing source energy would not affect the remains. Yet why did the perfect remains become eerie bones after he absorbed the source energy? Idiot! What's so surprising about this? The reason why his remains could remain complete was because of the special effects of this crystal coffin. You opened the crystal coffin, so naturally his remains would be affected. Eggy explained. I see. Is this the entrance to the Emperor Tomb then? Where's that world spiritist? Where did he go? Chu Feng carefully assessed his surroundings, and he discovered that there were similarities with the lifeline. There were many tunnels leading everywhere, but no one knew where they led to. Wait, this seems more like a ceiling formation, a very strong ceiling formation. If I'm not mistaken, this person should be Murong Xiaoyao. He must have got something from the Emperor Tomb, but for some unknown reasons, he did not want anyone to reopen the Emperor Tomb, so he sealed it here. However, since we heard things after the lifeline was deciphered, this ceiling formation must have been affected. Looking at the surrounding symbols, they should have been created by that world spiritist to stabilize this ceiling formation. As for the so-called lifeline, it should only be a lie by Murong Xiaoyao. When everything started, he already planned to bury himself here. So, when the White Tiger Villa was established, this place was already created as well, perhaps to prevent anyone from disturbing his peace after he died. Or perhaps there really was something under this ceiling formation. He did not want anyone to enter this place again. But no matter what the reason was, he was alive that year and he was not a consciousness. He intentionally pretended to disappear in that year. Then when people came and intruded, He mercilessly killed them in order to deter others from the future. Eggy analyzed, but even so, how did he suddenly become an aged old man from a flourishing young man? If the legends were true, that means that he lived for 300 years. That already exceeded the limits of human life, right? Chu Feng was very confused. He must have experienced something in order for that change to happen. Emperor tombs are not as simple as you think they are. Not only are there evil spirits within them, there are many other strong things that guard it. If he was able to turn into an aged old man from a flourishing young man, that means he was also able to live several hundred years. In reality, when your cultivation reaches a certain level, it is not impossible to live up to 1,000 years. However, right now, what you need to do is not to think about why he turned into that, but whether there are any treasures left behind by Murong Zai Ouyao. You need to do two things. The first thing you need to do is to eliminate that world spiritist. Only then can you monopolize the treasure here and continue Murong Zai Oyao's legacy. Secondly, you need to find the exit to this place. If you don't even know how to get out, everything will be for naught. Eggy seriously reminded. Only then did Chu Feng notice that there were no exits. He entered the black hole and directly came to this place, but the black hole was closed behind him. Suddenly, gray-colored light was emitted from a deep part within a certain tunnel. The gray-colored light was extremely strange, and it was a type of spirit formation power. Damn it, this person is a gray cloak world spiritist. After seeing that strange light, Eggy tensed up. Gray cloak world spiritist. Chu Feng was quite puzzled, but from Eggy's nervous attitude, he could feel that the world spiritist was not simple. Chu Feng, you cannot be careless this time. This world spiritist is extremely strong, even stronger than your Azure Dragon School's Elders Huge. Eggy said solemnly. What? Even stronger than Elders Huge? Chu Feng was shocked. That's right, world spiritists have rankings as well, and they are ranked by the power of their spirit formation. They are white cloak, gray cloak, blue cloak, purple cloak, and gold cloak. Obviously, your Azure Dragon School's huge Lian is a white cloak world spiritist. Putting aside the world spirit white cloak that he is wearing, the spirit formation power that he grasps is within the scope of white cloaks. If strictly required, you can also be counted as a white cloak world spiritist. The dazzling light just now was clearly the power of that person's spirit formation. If he was only laying down a spirit formation, there shouldn't be that kind of light. This means that he was using the power of spirit formation to try and open something. That person is quite impressive. He understands this place a lot better than you, and his goal is very definite. So definite that he could put Murong Zai Oyao's source energy aside and open whatever he is opening right now. If my guesses are correct, that thing must be even more attracting than Murong Zai Oyao's source energy. So I have an idea right now. Eggy said. What idea? Chu Feng hurriedly asked. His skill in the spirit formation technique is above you, and he can open the treasures that you cannot. Also, since he's a gray cloak world spiritist, he undoubtedly made a contract with a world spirit. His strength is absolutely not weak as well, so do not be negligent. Right now, hide in the coffin. Wait, and when he goes to the other tunnels, come out of the coffin and set up a trap that can suppress his power. After he opens the treasures, he will come and absorb Murong Zai Oyao's source energy. At that time, you ambush him and take everything he has. Eggy reminded. To guard a tree stump while waiting for rabbits, and the fisherman reaps the rewards, huh? After hearing Eggy's words, Chu Feng totally agreed. It was not the first time that he did things like that, but the effect was very good. Just as Chu Feng finished setting up some things on the crystal coffin, the gray light from deep within the tunnel completely disappeared. Eggy reminded Chu Feng that the world spiritist must have finished the opening of that section, and he was currently returning. So Chu Feng quickly hid inside the crystal coffin. Chu Feng was more or less nervous while laying inside the crystal coffin. After all, Eggy already said that, in terms of spirit formation techniques, that person was even stronger than Zhuge Lian, and his real strength was unfathomable. Although Eggy entered the profound realm, and with her help, Chu Feng could even fight experts at the 6th level of the profound realm. Without the suppressing trap being laid out, Chu Feng was not confident. Asterisk ta 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 asterisk however, when light footsteps walked past then gradually distanced, Chu Feng's tense heart relaxed. The world spiritist did not use his spirit power, so that meant he was very confident in himself. Within the tomb, he was sure that he was alone. After that, Chu Feng started to lay traps around the crystal coffin. The more he laid, the more he was able to feel the changes in the tomb. Although there was nothing strange on the surface, that feeling was as if something extremely strong was going to be revived. Damn, feeling is very uneasy. That guy isn't deciphering this ceiling formation, opening the entrance to the Emperor tomb, and releasing the evil spirits outright. Chu Feng was not too calm. It was because he was sealed within the tomb. He did not know where the exit was, so if an evil spirit was released, he would not know where to run, and he would certainly be dead. Don't worry, the core of this ceiling formation is here. If he wants to open the ceiling formation, he would not use symbols to stabilize the formation. If my estimations are correct, he is not going to free any organisms. He is most likely opening a sealed martial skill, which is the secret of the dead zone that he said earlier. Eggy explained. Really, that would be great. At that instant, Chu Feng was extremely excited. After all, the martial skill that Murong Zai Oyo grasped back in that year was quite amazing. If he could get it, it would be equivalent to getting a real trump card. Asterisk rumble rumble asterisk a short while after the world spiritist entered the last tunnel, the entire tomb started to rumble, as if something strong was going to be born. However, it was completely different from the noise that he heard earlier in the lifeline. He's almost done. My guesses were indeed correct. What he is opening is a sealed method, and even if it isn't the secret of the dead zone, it would not be any simple martial skill, or else there wouldn't be such big movements. Eggy excitedly said. Chu Feng was also similarly excited, and he quickened the trap-laying speed. Wah tilde tilde tilde. Just at that time, the roar of a tiger came from every single direction. That sound was extremely deafening, and it could certainly shake the world. It was the roar of the true king of thousands of beasts. It could shake one's heart and make people feel fear in their hearts and force them to yield. Heavens, this sound. You said that he wasn't releasing evil spirits. Chu Feng had sweat all over his forehead because he could feel the might of that object just from the roar. Idiot, you're a world spiritist, but you can't even distinguish between evil spirits and souls. Would the aura of an evil spirit be so kind? It's not an evil spirit. It is a huge opportunity because this isn't a simple martial skill. It's a secret skill. You know what that is. Eggy seemed to be disappointed from his failure to meet expectations, but her voice was abnormally excited. Secret skill. What's that? Hearing Eggy's words, Chu Feng felt that it was not simple, so he closely questioned. Secret skills are methods above martial skills. They cannot be limited to the ranks because their power changes according to the person. However, they have the power to pressure outstanding people and to shake the world. Secret skills are abilities that have life. They cannot be printed on paper, and not everyone can grasp them, because people do not learn them. The skills themselves choose their own masters. After the death of their master, the secret skills would be separated from the body of their master, and they would roam around the world to choose its new master. In short, secret skills are the strongest methods in the world. They can only be met by chance, and not gained by begging. They are methods that countless cultivating experts chase after in their lives. No wonder Murong Zai Oyo back in the day was so strong. I never expected what he got was the legendary secret skill. Secret skill. So there are methods like that in the world. If Eggy was said to be endlessly excited at that moment, Chu Feng would be so excited that he did not know what to do. It was exactly as how Eggy said it was. This time, he really found a huge opportunity. Eggy, are you sure that this is a secret skill? Chu Feng asked, because from the bottom of his heart, he hoped that it was a secret skill. Are you doubting my abilities? Do you think that I've seen nothing and I would even recognize a secret skill wrong? Remember this aura. This is unique to secret skills and only they have this type of aura. Eggy explained, but this is such a strong aura. Would such a strong existence be willing to serve me? Chu Feng was a bit worried. That roar came from every direction, but it was clearly only caused by one object. The most important thing was the aura. It had unusual deterrence and no one could resist against that. You don't understand. This is the impressiveness of secret skills. Like I said, the secret skill will choose the person and no one can forcefully learn it. Only when the person's power exceed far above from the secret skills could they forcefully catch it, engulf it, and refine it for their own use. But to forcefully engulf secret skills requires them to be at least in the martial lord realm. Also, that does not mean martial lords could forcibly engulf all secret skills, since they are created by people. There are weak ones and strong ones. Perhaps martial lords could forcibly engulf the secret skills created by martial kings. However, even martial kings cannot do that for the secret skills created by martial emperors. If I'm not mistaken, the secret skill in this tomb was most likely created by a martial emperor. Eggy explained. What? Martial emperor? King xianxia already entered the emperor realm and became a martial emperor. Chu Feng was endlessly shocked. His expression changed greatly, and a single word was clearly written on his face: astonishment. After many questionings from Chu Feng, Eggy finally told the realms of martial cultivation to Chu Feng. It turned out in the journey of cultivation, there was not only the 4 realms of spirit, origin, profound, and heaven. After those 4 realms, there were 4 stronger realms. The Lord realm. They had the might of a lord coming down from the heavens. Those who were able to enter that realm must have sufficient cultivating talent. And they were also the people who were recognized as absolute geniuses. The king realm. Being above the lord realm, they were the real kings, and they were entirely worthy of being titled as martial kings. Those who entered that realm were not cultivators who had simple aptitude. They must have had gigantic opportunities and endless fortunes in order to step into that realm. The emperor realm, a realm that completely surpassed the king realm. Those who were able to enter that realm were not ordinary. If they didn't have a divine body, they would have unique blood. In brief, they must have potential that normal people did not have, and grasped abilities that normal people could not grasp. Also, they needed countless opportunities, or else even if one had higher potential, without the inheritance of a senior, they had no way of entering that realm. It could be said to be the peak realm, in the road of martial cultivation. Those who were able to enter that realm and become the martial emperor were huge characters. Their name and their stories would be passed down for thousands of years. As for the ancestor realm, Eggy did not reveal much about it. She only left a sentence for Chu Feng. There was no end in the road of martial cultivation. All the current realms were opened up by countless people from previous generations, but it was certainly not the last realm in martial cultivation. The ancestor realm could be said to be a myth. The number of people who were able to enter that realm were extremely few. However, no one could be sure that the ancestor realm was the end on the road of martial cultivation, because those who entered the ancestor realm and became the martial ancestor were old monsters that were worshipped like gods. Yet they did not stop martial cultivating, and they still continued. All in all, in the known realms in martial cultivation, martial ancestors were truly like legends, because even if they existed, normal people would not even have a chance to see them. They were just like gods that existed within the heavens and the earth. On the other hand, the realm of martial emperors became the real peak in the path of martial cultivation. Even many geniuses, or even those who had a divine body, struggled for their entire lives, but could not enter that realm. According to legends, when King xianxia died, he was only 15 years old, and that stunned Chu Feng quite a bit. He became a martial emperor at the age of 15. That was a bit too terrifying, but after some more detailed thinking, Chu Feng was suddenly enlightened and he seemed to understand the meaning of the emperor tomb. What are you being shocked for? The secret skill here was undoubtedly created by a martial emperor. With this aura, it cannot be a mistake. However, that does not mean that it was created by King xianxia. Also, legends are only legends. There are huge differences between legends and reality. So, even if this secret skill was created by King xianxia, that does not mean he entered the emperor realm at the age of 15 and became a martial emperor. Perhaps him at that time was an old man who was at the end of his life, so he created the tomb and buried himself within it. Seeming to know Chu Feng's thoughts, Eggy spoke to reminded him. After hearing Eggy's analysis, Chu Feng nodded in agreement. After all, legends are only legends, and something would be different with that in reality. But he still really admired and respected King xianxia. After all, the Emperor realm was not a realm that anyone could enter, not to mention martial emperors. Currently, in the continent of the 9 provinces, the Heaven realm was the peak. Martial emperors were simply myths. Just at that time, the world-shaking roar sounded out again. The entire tomb violently shook, as if something that even the heavens and earth feared was going to be born. The seal will be opened soon and the secret skill will show itself. You cannot sit and do nothing. You absolutely cannot sit and do nothing. Chu Feng, quickly lead that world spiritist here and kill him. If you let the secret skill choose him as its master, you will miss this enormous opportunity and regret it for your entire life. Eggy anxiously urged. At the same time, Chu Feng could feel the aura within his body strengthening. Power that surpassed origin power filled every corner of his body. The first level of the profound realm. Obviously, Eggy lent her power to Chu Feng. Oi, you don't want your source energy. At that instant, Chu Feng's tension also rose to the extreme. He didn't know how to lead the world spiritist over, so he just randomly yelled that out. Whoosh just as he finished speaking. A body speedily rushed out from that tunnel. It was the gray-cloaked person. Although his face could not be clearly seen from his gaze, one could feel shock, fury, and also killing intent. A world spirit gray cloak. He really is a gray cloak world spiritist. Chu Feng, take his cloak down or else the power of this trap will not be used to its most effectiveness. His world spirit gray cloak can cancel the power of this trap. Eggy gravely reminded. Whoosh. Almost at the same time in which Eggy reminded Chu Feng, the gray-cloaked person spoke nothing and directly attacked. He leaped towards Chu Feng, raised his palm and aimed it at Chu Feng. He was merciless and clearly he wanted to kill Chu Feng. However, just as that person stepped onto the stage, Chu Feng activated the trap. The symbols on the stage moved and light shot in all directions. The aura of the gray-cloaked person was instantly suppressed. As for his palm, Chu Feng easily dodged it. At that instant, the gray-cloaked person panicked a bit. He never would have thought that Chu Feng was a world spiritist as well. A spirit formation trap was even set up there, and his cultivation was being suppressed. Chu Feng took the chance and extended his hand. Following the words of Eggy, he grabbed the gray-cloaked person's world spirit gray cloak. He was as quick as lightning, and before the gray-cloaked person even got a chance to react, Chu Feng's powerful, big hands grabbed onto his chest. However, just as Chu Feng's palm touched that area, he felt that something was wrong. His face couldn't help but slightly redden because, at that instant, not only did his right hand grab onto the world spirit gray cloak, he even grabbed onto a ball of softness. An ear-piercing screech suddenly resounded out. It was no longer the aged and strange voice, but a voice of a female. Hearing the sweetness and the tenderness of the voice, that person should be a young female. You're a female. Chu Feng widened his mouth and he was endlessly shocked. However, his right hand got tighter and tighter. He even squeezed it 2 times as if trying to confirm if that person was a girl or not. At the end, Chu Feng's conclusion was, yes, without a doubt, yes, that feeling, that elasticity. Other than a tiny bit, it was no worse than Su Ro. I will kill you. Being grabbed by Chu Feng like that, the gray-cloaked person was incomparably angry. Although he could not see her face, he could still feel her fury. She revolved her profound power, and her boundless aura surged within body. She was planning to use a strong martial skill to kill Chu Feng with one strike. Asterisk whoosh asterisk, how could Chu Feng give that chance to her? Chu Feng's right palm slightly loosened, then suddenly tightened, and he pulled up. The world spirit grey cloak entered his hands, and he threw it into his arms. Ah! When the world spirit grey cloak was pulled off, the girl cried out because without the protection of the world spirit grey cloak, she was bearing the power of the trap in its strongest degree. Damn, you're even such a beautiful girl. At the same time, Chu Feng's gaze went lifeless, and he was enchanted by the scene in front of him. Underneath the world spirit grey cloak was not some despicable little old person. It was a girl who was so beautiful that she could not be any more beautiful. With a sharp jaw and white face, she truly had an oval face. Not only was her little face delicate, her facial features were pretty as well. Her shiny, big eyes could charm a person to death. She wasn't seductive like Su Ro, nor pure like Su Mei. She was both clear and alluring, as if there was a captivating flower in the middle of a limpid pond. When the young female was paired with a purple-colored skirt, while revealing her white snow, beautiful legs under the skirt, she was just like a small, enticing woman. She was even the type that did not return your life if you died from her bewitchment. Her complexion completely surpassed Su Ro and Su Mei. From all the beauties that Chu Feng had seen before, the only person that could be comparable to that girl was Eggy, who lived in Chu Feng's spiritual world. However, that girl was completely different. Although they were both quite enticing females, if Eggy was an odd, naughty type, that girl was the cold but beautiful type who was detached from everyone else. You lewd demon, what are you looking at? Have you not seen beauties before? Now quickly kill her. When that secret skill appears, who knows if it will choose you or her? As Chu Feng stared blankly, Eggy howled in disappointment. What, kill her? After hearing those words, Chu Feng's heart tightened. If he was told to kill an extremely heinous person, Chu Feng would not be merciful in any way. However, if he was told to kill a person that had no enmity with him, and who was even such a beautiful young female, he really could not do it. What a contemptible little person. You dare to scheme against me. Today I will break your corpse into 10,000 pieces. Just at that time, the girl explosively yelled. Her jet-black hair turned into purple, and her enchanting eyes became purple as well. Strands of purple-colored gas continuously appeared from her body. They seemed like light, like water, yet like fire. They were extremely strange, and they encircled and swirled around the girl while intertwining together. At the same time, with the girl as the center, layers of invisible ripples kept on spreading out. One ripple followed the other, and every ripple was stronger than the former. As it suddenly exploded out like that, even Chu Feng had no way of holding it back, and he was forcefully thrown off. Asterisk whoosh asterisk, he was caught off guard, and Chu Feng fell off the tall stage. With a beautiful backflip, he stably landed on the ground. However, when he cast his gaze towards the stage again, he was unable to remain calm. The trap that he painstakingly laid for several hours was collapsing from the young female's purple-colored gas. Countless symbols started to crumble before becoming ashes and disappearing from the world. This girl is quite strong. She is clearly only at the first level of the profound realm. How was she able to force me out from the trap? Chu Feng felt that it was unbelievable because the aura the girl was emanating was very strange. He never seen it before, but he subconsciously knew that it was not a simple martial skill. How is this possible? She has that type of body. Eggy couldn't help but cry out in surprise, and her tone was filled with inconceivability. That type of body is what type of body? Eggy, what body does she have? Chu Feng was also aware that something was wrong because the girl in front of him was hugely pressuring him. To know, after Eggy lent her power to him, Chu Feng reached the first level of the profound realm. With his abilities, he could easily kill those at the fourth level of the profound realm. If he used his special power, the golden lightning in his blood, and raised his cultivation to the second level of the profound realm, experts at the fifth level of the profound realm would not be difficult for him. Only those at the sixth level of the profound realm could contend against him. However, what was going on with the girl in front of him? She had the same cultivation as Chu Feng, but she gave Chu Feng such a strong, oppressing feeling. Did that girl also have special abilities that allowed her to have power that was comparable to those at the 6th level of the profound realm? Idiot, don't you see it? This girl did not use any special martial skills. She used her unique special ability. That purple gas does not contain any profound power, and it is something that came from her own body. This girl doesn't have any random body but a divine body. What? Divine body? After hearing those words, Chu Feng was even more shocked and his face instantly turned deathly white. Divine bodies were special bodies bestowed by heaven. They were real geniuses that had special abilities, and when they were born, they were already fated to become quite an existence. The legendary person 10,000 years ago, the creator of the Emperor Tomb, King xianxia, had a divine body. The reason why Chu Feng had such strong battle prowess was possibly because he had a divine body. However, suspicion were only suspicions, and he did not have any solid proof. But in front of his eyes, in front of his face, his opponent, a young woman who was yelling that she would break him into 10,000 pieces, had a genuine divine body. For the first time, when fighting a person of the same generation, it made Chu Feng feel that he was in danger, as if a powerful enemy arrived. He had to put his entire heart into it. He needed to carefully deal with it and seriously treat it. Asterisk boom asterisk. A huge boom resonated out, and countless symbols disappeared like smoke. The purple-colored gas filled the entire stage. The girl completely destroyed Chu Feng's trap, and she was walking down the stage, one step at a time. Her purple-colored hair madly danced in the air, and her purple-colored eyes revealed bloodlust. Her purple-colored skirt moved without wind, and her purple-colored gas followed where she went. Such strong might. This is a real divine body. Chu Feng's complexion was pale white. Although he did not retreat, he did not dare to easily go forward, not to mention initiating an attack. Droplets of sweat that were as big as beans rolled down his forehead. He really felt the danger, and it was the first time that he was forced to a step like that. Wah tilde, asterisk rumble rumble asterisk. Just at that time, deafening bellows reverberated everywhere, and it was more than several times stronger than before. The ground trembled, and there were even cracks that appeared. Sounds of rocks falling could be heard. And the most important part was that the powerful yet ancient oppression feeling pounced towards them. The legendary secret skill appeared. The roar of the tiger went in all directions, and it shook the world. The tomb violently trembled, as if it would crumble at any time. Under that pressure, in front of that power, the deterrence that the purple-clothed young female showed before seemed so tiny. It was completely pressed down, and it was not even worth mentioning. Where did you two little children come from, and you dare to disturb my rest? That voice seemed like the simultaneous roar of 10,000 beasts, yet it also seemed like the bellow of a powerful person. It was as though it came from all directions, yet it was as though it came from deep within one's spirit. It was thick and powerful, and it was also filled with ancient aura. The age of the aura seemed weird, as if it was a spirit that slept for 10,000 years and just woke up. It gave people a type of pressure that did not belong to this world. I pay my respects. I had no meaning to intrude, but I just didn't wish for you to continue being sealed here and your might buried. So I acted insolently in order to release you. In response to that, the purple-clothed girl half knelt on the ground with a poof, clasped her hands together, and paid her respects to the air. Nonsense. I wish to rest until now. If I did not choose to come out and stretch for a bit, how could a little child like you wake me up? That voice turned a bit angry. In an instant, white-colored gas surged over from every single direction. They started to condense in the air, and with a blink, it formed into a huge white tiger. That tiger was extremely big. It was over 20 meters long, and one of its paws could crush Chu Feng into a meat patty. Although it was a white tiger, it was not an actual body. White gas rolled all over its body. It was like fog that swirled in the air as it stared at Chu Feng and the girl. It did not have any pupils, and both of its eyes were two black holes. However, when they swept past Chu Feng, He couldn't help but quiver and felt an oppressing feeling from deep within his soul. Chu Feng had no doubt that if it attacked, he would instantly disappear without any suspense. "You child, there's really nothing great about you. Not only did you secretly sneak in, you even hiddenly set up a surprise attack and tried to gain the benefits of the fisherman." After sweeping his gaze over to Chu Feng, it coldly said that. It turned out that despite coming out just now, it clearly understood everything that happened in the tomb. At that instant, Chu Feng did not say anything. He tightly frowned but did not make a sound. It wasn't that he didn't want to speak, but he did not know what to talk about. He felt that in front of the old monster who might have lived for over 10,000 years, any bootlicking words would be useless. No one would be sharper than it, and the bridges that it crossed over were even more than the roads Chu Feng's walked on. However, when the godlike white tiger gave Chu Feng a negative opinion, the purple-clothed girl hiddenly rejoiced. Her mouth couldn't help but curve up into a light, smug smile. She felt that there would be a lot more hope in getting the legacy of the white tiger if it gave Chu Feng its disapproval. "Child, you are not anything good either. The reason why you came to this place is for no other reason but to gain my power. You aimed to kill him before, so it can be seen that you are a person who does not care what methods you use to reach your goal. If you are like this at your age, what would happen when you grow up?" But just at that time, the white tiger shot a glance at the purple-clothed girl, then coldly reprimanded. "Senior, I know I have wronged. I just wanted your legacy too much and your strong power too much, so I was rash. If you had to blame something, you can only blame that you were too attractive and messed my heart up." The girl pursed her lips, and her face could only be called as pitiful. She looked as grieved as she could. HMPH, flowery words but speeches of trickery. However, the unexpected thing was, despite knowing that the girl was so nakedly saying such bootlicking words, the white tiger still revealed a hint of delight. That thing enjoyed people to bootlick him so much. "Senior, your power is unrivaled and peerless. Your methods are absolute in the world. You really shouldn't be here resting, but instead, you should let us experience your glory. Or else to us and everyone, it would be a type of regret." Seeing that bootlicking worked, Chu Feng did not sit there and wait for death. He quickly went up, paid his respects, and licked without covering it up at all. "Ha ha, you little boy, you quite know how to speak. However, all of them are truths. It really would be type of regret to everyone if I kept on resting here. My glory cannot be comparable by anyone. Those three old things cannot even match me," the white tiger said proudly. It even used its claws, which were full of sharp blades, to stroke its dried-up beard. It could be seen that it was extremely pleased with itself. "Three old things. It is that." After hearing the white tiger's talking to itself, Chu Feng muttered in his heart, "You should not be wrong. Chu Feng, you are really too lucky. If I'm not mistaken, there should also be 3 secret skills sealed in the 3 other Emperor Tomb entrances. Heavens, there are a total of 4 secret skills. If you can learn them all, your future will simply be unmeasurable. Very little people in the same generation can be matched by you. You are truly lucky, and you have opportunities that normal people cannot get." Compared to Chu Feng's suspicions, Eggy bounced and skipped randomly in excitement. It was already confirmed that there were 4 other places that had secret skills. At that instant, Chu Feng was incomparably joyful. If a single secret skill could make countless experts insane, 4 secret skills would drive everyone in the world insane. Chu Feng couldn't help but secretly glance at the purple-clothed girl. He discovered that she was using a gaze of disdain and hatred to glare at himself. She was seemingly cursing Chu Feng with her gaze and saying that he was shameless. Chu Feng was secretly pleased by the girl's reactions. He could tell that despite knowing there was a secret skill here, she clearly did not know the secret of the Emperor Tombs. She did not know that there were 3 more entrances in the Azure province, and possibly also 3 more secret skills sealed within. I will do a self-introduction. I am the and I was created by a martial emperor. It is inconvenient to reveal my master's name, but with his power and might, with a slightly movement of his toes, he could cause this entire land to crumble and this sky to collapse. He is an extremely powerful person in this world. Just at that time, the god-like white tiger did a self-introduction. Chu Feng was prepared in his heart when faced with that situation. After all, he already knew from Eggy that the secret skill should have been created by a martial emperor from the aura. On the other hand, the purple-clothed girl had astonishment all over her face. Clearly, she did not expect that the origin of the secret skill was so impressive. My attacking methods are the hardest and strongest in the world. There is nothing that can block me, not to mention your spirit formations. Even world spiritists that led a world spirit army of several hundred were all killed by me in one strike. The white tiger narrated proudly. A world spirit army of several hundred. Eggy, what level would that world spiritist be? Chu Feng asked in his heart. He really wanted to know how strong a world spiritist like that would be. Fool. World spirits create contracts with world spiritists. So when the spirit power of world spiritists reaches a certain strength, as long as the world spiritists are willing to, world spirits are able to use their own intelligence to enter the spiritual world and fight for the world spiritist. The amount of world spirits one has is a way to determine the strength of a world spiritist. A world spiritist that controls several hundred world spirits is a person who stepped into the peak of the king realm, a peak-level martial king. Eggy explained, that's strong. At that instant, Chu Feng was greatly shocked. One strike to kill a peak-level martial king. That meant two things. Firstly, it meant that the master of the white tiger slaughtering technique was extremely strong, and it could very possibly be the legendary character of the 9 provinces, King xianxia. Secondly, it also meant that the white tiger slaughtering technique was quite something. After all, world spiritists were experts in techniques of spirit formations, and those were titled as the strongest defense methods in the world. To be able to break it in one strike, and to also kill the world spiritist, already said enough about its power. No wonder xianxia, that year was said to have a matchless attacking method in the world. It must have been the work of the white tiger slaughtering technique, and secret skills really did live up to its name. In short, my abilities are invincible in the world. It is exactly how you say it is. I have no problem resting here, but it would be a regret. So, I decided to come out and let people experience my glory once again. The white tiger circled around in the air, and it blew its own trumpet as it spoke. However, even if it spoke too directly and exaggerated its confidence too much, Chu Feng and the purple-clothed girl did not doubt its words at all, because it was certainly a secret skill that was like a legend. Although the character of you two children aren't anything good, the aptitudes you two have are still fine. Fight against each other. I will pass down my ability to the victor. As for what degree you can use my ability to, that will depend on yourselves. But don't worry, even if you have horrible talent, I would not blame you. I would only blame myself for not doubting my eyes. Even xianxia that year was so mediocre. But I never said that he wouldn't do and blamed him for that. After all, he was the person that I chose. The white tiger suddenly spoke, and more or less there was remorse in its tone. What? xianxia was mediocre. xianxia that year was mediocre. You never said he wouldn't do. Are you complaining now? Chu Feng was displeased in his heart. The so-called secret skill was such an arrogant, proud, self-centered, and twisted fellow. However, that being said, it was qualified to say that, or else Chu Feng and the purple-clothed girl would not be so respectful to it and fight over to get its appreciation. But looking at the current situation, the skill of one's mouth was clearly useless. The white tiger had already spoken, and it wanted Chu Feng and the purple-clothed girl to fight. The victor would gain its power. What are you looking at? Why aren't you two starting? If you hesitate a bit more, be careful, as I might change my thoughts. As it swept its glance over the two people, the white tiger howled in dissatisfaction. Die. Just as the white tiger finished speaking, the purple-clothed girl attacked like lightning. The purple-colored gas flames circulated, and her black hair became purple once again. Within her purple pupils was killing intent. She truly wanted Chu Feng dead. The purple-colored gas flames pressed their way over. They were like purple-colored evil, fierce, and wild beasts. Chu Feng did not just take all that. He strode, straightened his back, formed a golden bow in his left hand and a golden arrow in his right. He pulled the bow until it formed a full moon, and the arrows he shot out were like falling meteors. The arrows that filled the air became a golden-colored storm as they explosively shot towards the purple-colored gas. However, the unexpected thing was that the smoke-like, misty, purple-colored gas was not weak. Rather, it was like a copper and iron wall. Despite the might of Chu Feng's bow of 100 transformations being even stronger, after penetrating through the layers of purple-colored gas, not only did it gradually slow down, at the end it was stopped, and it shattered and disappeared. The most important thing was that the attacking might of the purple-colored gas was unable to be stopped by the bow of 100 transformations. At that instant, the purple-colored gas brought its enormous power and pounced towards Chu Feng. It descended from the heavens, and it seemed like a waterfall that had unstoppable might. And it also seemed like a current that had an attack that could break through anything. That level of might, that level of power, only Chu Feng, who was going to experience, could understand it. HMPH. But Chu Feng was not only for looks. He coldly snorted, and without hurry or panic, he abruptly used the Imperial Sky technique, just as the purple-colored gas was going to slam down on him, and easily dodged it. Asterisk whoosh 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 asterisk. However, what Chu Feng did not think of was almost at the exact same time that he dodged it, the purple-colored gas also split apart and formed into countless big, purple-colored gas hands. They clawed at Chu Feng, and their speed was many times quicker. Asterisk boom 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 asterisk. The gas hands had extremely strong might. After every boom, a deep pit of death would be left behind on the ground, which was made out of special materials. Dust and rubble flew everywhere. Chu Feng was like an agile monkey as he jumped away from the countless number of big purple-colored hands. Although the big hands were helpless against his speed, Chu Feng sank into a passive state. As Chu Feng dodged, he looked towards the purple-clothed girl. He discovered that she was standing where she was, and she did not even move half a step. She was using a gaze of contempt to look at himself, as if Chu Feng was fish on a cutting board and was freely being sliced. Damn brat. If I don't show you my might, you will really think that I'm a sick cat. TN. If a tiger doesn't show its might, others would think that it was a sick cat. At that instant, Chu Feng suddenly stopped his escaping steps. With a thought, golden-colored lightning appeared in his eyes. At the same time, the space around him also rippled. Tiny golden-colored lightning surged out, and they became a human-shaped shield. It formed in front of Chu Feng, and his aura instantly entered the second level of the profound realm from the first level. Asterisk boom 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 asterisk simultaneously. The big purple-colored hands surrounded and attacked from all directions. They almost completely sealed Chu Feng's path of escape, and they started to endlessly explode on Chu Feng's body. The purple-colored gas blended with the rubble, and even the tomb shook and trembled. However, under that level of attack, the purple-clothed girl did not rejoice, and instead, she was worried. Her pair of eyebrows couldn't help but slightly tighten, and her shiny big eyes became more serious. As for the white tiger in the air, a smile that was unique to beasts streaked past its lips. It said faintly, "This is slightly interesting." The purple-colored gas slowly dissipated, and Chu Feng slowly walked out from within. At that very instant, golden-colored lightning surged within his eyes. There was a layer of human-shaped protective shield surrounding his body, and the strength of his aura was several times stronger than before. The purple-colored gas was useless against him. This special aura, "You also have a divine body." Seeing Chu Feng like that, shock filled the eyes of the purple-clothed girl, and she felt that it was quite inconceivable. Interesting. This is too interesting. I never would have thought that just as I came out, I would meet two people with divine bodies. It seems like I won't be disappointed this time. Fight, quickly fight. Let me see which one of yous will gain my ability. In contrast to the astonishment of the purple-clothed girl, the white tiger was madly happy. Little girl, since you're this fierce, you cannot blame me for not holding back on you. Chu Feng used the bow of 100 transformations once again, and this time, its power was completely different from before. There was a layer of lightning wrapped around the golden-colored arrow. The power that it contained was several times stronger than before. Asterisk swish asterisk Chu Feng shot an arrow out. A black line even ripped the air, and purple-colored gas that was like a copper and iron wall before was only currently like tofu. With howling noises, ripples spread, and the golden-colored arrow that had unstoppable might already arrived in front of the purple-clothed girl. HMPH. However, what Chu Feng did not expect was that the purple-clothed girl did not avoid nor dodge the arrow Chu Feng sent over. Her pure white hand shot out like lightning and grabbed the golden-colored arrow in her hand. After that, she only lightly clenched, and with a poof, the lightning that wrapped around the golden-colored lightning arrow disappeared within. It was unable to do even a trace of damage. Nice method, but I would like to see what you will do to this. Chu Feng took a step forward and started to wildly pull his bow. The golden-colored arrows were still as strong as before, but they turned from one to several. They were truly densely packed, and they filled the sky and covered the sun as they forced their way towards the girl. I even thought that it was quite something, but after all that, you only raised your cultivation by 1 level. Your strongest method is even a mere rank 5 martial skill. The mouth of the girl slowly curled up into a mocking sneer. After that, her purple-colored eyes unceasingly glittered. A formless aura spread out with her as the middle, and it engulfed the entire tomb. After that aura appeared, Chu Feng felt huge pressure. That pressure was even continuing to increase, and it even made the bow in Chu Feng's hand heavier, and it lost the sharp might from before. This power is so strong. What kind of method did she use? Chu Feng was endlessly shocked. He astoundingly discovered that in front of that power, his golden-colored arrows were frozen in midair. They were bound by the power, and they were not able to be controlled by himself. However, that was not the end. As the terrifying aura swept ripple by ripple over, gradually, a big purple-colored bell appeared outside of the girl. No, it wasn't a big bell. To be precise, it should be a small bell, a purple-colored bell. There were special patterns all over it, as though it had life, and it was constantly changing. Only because it looked too big did it seem like a big bell, as it protected the girl within it. At the same time that the bell rang out, the frozen golden-colored arrows in the air all shattered. Even Chu Feng felt the strong force. A type of pressure that came from every single direction was penetrating his body and pressing down on his dantian. Damn it, this power is so strong. Chu Feng gnashed his teeth, revolved the profound power in his entire body to hold that pressure back. Although he was able to hold the strong power back, at that moment, huge droplets of sweat already appeared on his forehead, and he did not have the previous calmness from before. This girl can use the power of her divine body. This is the power that is unique to her, the power that the heavens gave her. She is already able to use the special ability for her divine body. At that instant, Eggy was also unable to remain calm. Her tone was filled with panic. Haha, interesting, this is too interesting. You've grasped the hidden power in your body at this age. Only talent like this is qualified to gain my inheritance. The white tiger was even more excited. What, you only have that tiny bit of skill? Do you really have a divine body? Or did you use some special methods to imitate a divine body? The girl stepped forward. The purple-colored bell that surrounded her emitted a ring. Every time that bell rang out, Chu Feng would feel the attack of the strong power. He had to use all his power to defend against it, or he would have been killed by that power. Imitating a divine body, huh? After hearing the words of the girl, the white tiger also had its doubts. Although Chu Feng's golden-colored lightning was very special, it did not necessarily represent the special power that divine bodies had. Because at that moment, Chu Feng's cultivation was at the 2nd level of the profound realm, yet the girl's cultivation was at the 1st level of the profound realm. Chu Feng used a rank 5 martial skill, But the girl only relied on her own power to completely suppress Chu Feng. That was the might that divine bodies had. With their own power, they could suppress strong people in their own generation. With the power bestowed by heaven and a peerless body, they were fated to become a huge character named as an overlord of an area. Asterisk ding asterisk, the bell rang again and again, and the girl got closer and closer. Chu Feng used the profound power in his entire body to fight against the strange power that was invading his body, but he was slowly not a match for the power. If the girl used any other attack on him, he would undoubtedly be defeated. Damn it, this divine lightning, don't turtle up in my dantian. Come up, lend your power to me. Chu Feng yelled in his heart because he did not want to be defeated. He could not be defeated. He could not lose the secret skill, and he could not die there. However, no matter how much he yelled, the divine lightning in his body had no reaction, as if they could not hear his words. Chu Feng was extremely helpless when he was in that situation. It was the first time that he was so helpless, and he was forced to that state by a girl who was even younger than himself. To know that the reason why he was able to hold off against the girl was all because he borrowed Eggy's power. If he relied on his own cultivation, he would have been killed by the girl already. It was the first time that he realized he was still not invincible in the world. Within the people of the same generation, there were people who had even higher talent than him. There were people who were even stronger than him, and in front of such a person, he was so weak that he could not take a single blow. You really only have false bravado. Not to mention that you don't have a divine body. Even if you do, the ability that you have are too weak. You are helpless in front of me. The girl kept on sneering, and her domineering tone was clearly revealed. She was arrogant to the extreme, but she did indeed have the qualification for that. At that moment, the white tiger who circled around in the air raised the corner of its mouth to form a smile of satisfaction. Although it was still silently watching everything, it did not have the excitement before, because it felt that the outcome of the battle was already determined. Chu Feng was suppressed. He was completely and thoroughly suppressed by the purple-clothed girl. Although he was extremely bitter, he could not do anything about it. Chu Feng, give your body to me and let me defeat this conceited girl. But just at that time, Eggy's voice rang out again. Her tone seemed to be filled with some sort of determination. What? Before Chu Feng was even able to react to that, he felt an extremely strong power surging from his spirit world. It was attacking his awareness, and it wanted to take over his body. That power was extremely strong. It could even be said to be terrifying. It was as though it came from the darkness of the abyss, and it gave people an icy cold feeling. However, Chu Feng did not panic because he felt a familiar aura from that power. It was Eggy. After being together for such a long time, Chu Feng completely trusted Eggy. Although she was strange and odd, she would not harm him. So Chu Feng did not resist against the attack on his awareness and gave the control to his body to Eggy. Asterisk at that moment, Chu Feng only felt strong power that he had never felt before, and it was surging in his body. Black-colored gas was emitted from Chu Feng's body and coiling upwards around Chu Feng. In a split instant, the black-colored gas covered the entire tomb. The ground started to violently shake, and the spiritual energy, origin power, and profound power hidden in the air all cried out, as if they were afraid. The black-colored gas rolled around in the air like a black cloud covering the sun. However, how could black clouds give out such feelings of oppression? It was simply like the release of an evil demon that had been sealed for a long time. It was as if it arrived at a place that it did not belong to. That feeling should not exist in this world. Is this the power of that person? Why is so sharply different from before? The eyes of the purple-clothed girl flickered, and she seemed to be scared. She surprisingly discovered that the nature of Chu Feng's aura changed. If Chu Feng had a dazzling glow before, at that moment, he was darkness that covered the eyes. The most important thing was when Chu Feng exploded the black-colored gas. Her aura was completely pushed down. Why is there such a dark power within this boy's body? At that instant, Even the expression of the white tiger changed greatly. The gaze that it looked Chu Feng with did not dare to have a single trace of disdain anymore. Do you think you are invincible in this world just by having a divine body? Today, I will let you experience the power that does not belong to your world. Today, I will let you know what is. The current Chu Feng was already being controlled by Eggy, so the one speaking was not Chu Feng, but Eggy. However, the purple-clothed girl and the white tiger did not know that. After all, since the body that Eggy borrowed was Chu Feng's, the voice was also Chu Feng's. I never heard of that. I only know that divine bodies are the strongest type of bodies in this land. Divine bodies should be invincible. The purple-clothed girl was clearly unwilling to accept that. She was even angered by Eggy's words. The purple-colored bell that enveloped her kept on emitting the strong rings. Wave after wave of rings swept towards Chu Feng. They were several times stronger than before, and it could be seen that she was truly angry. On the other hand, Eggy only stood where she was and did not care about that at all. The black-colored gas twisted around her body, and nothing could break through it. Even the strange but strong ring was blocked, and it had no way of even harming a single strand of Chu Feng's hair. HMPH. Suddenly, Eggy coldly snorted, and the black-colored gas that was over her head started to wiggle. After that, countless black-colored sharp claws descended from above. That was right. They were claws and not hands because they were sharp and frightening. With a glance, it would even make one's hair and bones terrified. Even if it was a hand, it would certainly not be a person's hand but a demon's. Behind the sharp, black-colored claws were long arms. They came down from the heavens, and they were like countless demons who clawed towards the purple-clothed girl with their terrifying sharp claws from another world. Hollow display of strength. Don't think that this can scare me. The eyes of the purple-clothed girl glittered, and she shot several palms upwards. When a palm shot out, it would rip through the air. When a palm shot out, the world would tremble a bit. That was no longer a simply rank 5 martial skill, but a rank 6 martial skill. Rank 6 martial skill. This girl can use a rank 6 martial skill, and she even cultivated it to this degree. Chu Feng was quite shocked, and even though his body was controlled by Eggy, he could still feel everything that happened in front of his eyes, as though he was in control of his body. He could feel the mysteriousness and the tyrannic force of the martial skill the purple-clothed girl was displaying. It did indeed surpass his bow of 100 transformations, and it was, without a doubt, a rank 6 martial skill. The most important thing was that the rank 6 martial skill was being perfectly executed by the girl, and she clearly fully understood the meaning within the martial skill. At that instant, Chu Feng deeply recognized the strength of the purple-clothed girl. He really could not be matched to her. The strength of him and the girls could be said to be the difference between the heaven and the earth. It was no longer on the same level. However, no matter how much stronger the purple-clothed girl's martial skill was, it had no way of shaking the black-colored sharp claws in the air. The claws were like things that did not belong to this world. Nothing could break it, but it could break everything. Asterisk boom asterisk just at that time, a black-colored claw descended down and landed where the purple-clothed girl was located at. Instantly, rubble flew everywhere, and a deep palm mark appeared. The purple-clothed girl was unable to dodge it, and she was forcibly slammed down. Asterisk boom 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 asterisk subsequently. Even more black-colored claws slammed down, and they endlessly landed on the body of the purple-clothed girl. At that instant, the vast tomb rocked as if it would collapse in any moment. Even the formation symbols on the ground became dim without light. A deep hole was continuously spreading, and it was being destroyed by Eggy's power. Enough, stop. Just at that time, the white tiger abruptly and explosively yelled. It had no choice but to speak since the scene in front of it already exceeded his control. If that continued, the tomb would be completely destroyed, and the formation that suppressed the entrance to the Emperor tomb would not exist. Only after it spoke did Eggy stop. The black clouds over her head started to dissipate, and the black-colored gas that was around Chu Feng's body also started to fade away. Chu Feng regained control of his own body. Eggy's power was taken away, and Chu Feng's aura went from the second level of the profound realm to the first level of the origin realm. However, when he scanned his surroundings, he shockingly discovered that the indestructible tomb was completely different from before. All of the fine layouts were no more, and the only thing that was complete was the huge formation pattern that was still moving. However, the light of the formation was not as bright as before. Cough, cough, cough. A set of violent coughs came from the deep hole, and the purple-clothed girl slowly climbed out. The purple-colored bell still enveloped her, but it was also a lot dimmer. Also, fresh red blood was slowly flowing out from the corner of her mouth. Obviously, she was wounded quite heavily. Of course, if she did not have the protection of the purple-colored bell, she would have already been patted into a meat paste by Eggy. The purple-clothed girl stared at Chu Feng with an extremely complicated gaze. From that gaze, Chu Feng could see her bitterness. She was extremely bitter since she lost to Chu Feng like that. However, the purple-clothed girl did not attack Chu Feng anymore, nor did she say any words of complaint. She only calmly said, "I lost." Just at that time, the white tiger who was circling around in the air raised its huge, powerful claw and lightly waved in the air. There was a layer of fluctuation in the air, and a black hole appeared. It was extremely similar to the entrance to the tomb. However, the entrance to the tomb was flat on the ground, whereas the current black hole was upright in midair. "Go and don't come back here," the white tiger said to the purple-clothed girl. After that, it meaningfully looked at Chu Feng, and its gaze was filled with satisfaction. Although the power that Eggy displayed earlier was extremely dark and evil, and it could be said to make people very uneasy, that strong power was also what the white tiger hoped its master would have. "We will meet again. Next time I will defeat you. Even if you have the help of the secret skill, I will not lose again." The purple-clothed girl swept a glance at Chu Feng, and a hint of resolution flashed past her eyes. After that, her beautiful body leaped, entered the black hole, and she completely disappeared. At that instant, Chu Feng couldn't help but deeply exhale. The purple-clothed girl was too strong. If it wasn't for Eggy, he would have certainly died. He never would have thought that there was such a monster in the Azure province, so strong that she could fight against the peak of the Azure province. After the girl left, the white tiger closed that black hole, and it opened another one. It said to Chu Feng, "Both of you are hard to get geniuses. Besides, she is a girl, so leave a path of life for her." After hearing the white tiger's words, Chu Feng bitterly smiled in his heart. Naturally, he could hear that the white tiger was afraid that Chu Feng would kill the purple-clothed girl out of the hatred in his heart, because from what the white tiger could see, Chu Feng's strength was indeed stronger than the girl's. However, in reality it was not. "I promise if we meet again, even if she has ill intents towards me, I will know when to stop and I won't take her life," Chu Feng solemnly vowed. He knew that the white tiger was going to pass down its ability to him, so he had to treat it with good words. No need. If in the future, she still has today's matter in her heart and attacks you based on that, you don't need to leave any lingering troubles. After all, you are the person who will get my inheritance. The white tiger shook its head, seemingly representing that Chu Feng misunderstood its meaning. After that, it fiercely roared, and its fog-like body separated within the world-shaking roar, and it started to rush towards Chu Feng's brain. At that instant, Chu Feng felt piercing pain from his brain, because enormous amounts of information was surging into his mind. There was so much information that none of the martial skills that he had read before was comparable to it. That most amazing thing was, when the information entered his brain, it was absorbed by his mind and it was digested, enabling him to use that skill. At the same time all that happened, the voice of the white tiger was ringing in Chu Feng's mind. "Boy, remember the words that I've said today. I am called the white tiger slaughtering technique. I am the strongest attack within secret skills, and ordinary martial skills cannot be compared to me. Today, I pass my ability down to you. However, that does not mean that my power will be freely controlled by you in the future. Although your power will affect my power, if I do not give enough of my approval to you, you will have no way of using my ability. So, you need to remember clearly that you must not use my ability for evil. You can kill those who offend you, but you cannot kill the innocent. You can remove the roots, but you cannot slaughter the innocent. The white tiger's voice lingered around Chu Feng's ears, and other than giving its warning to Chu Feng, it also told the characteristics of the secret skill to Chu Feng. Of course, the power of the secret skill was quite something, however. Chu Feng could not use it whenever he wished. As for what degree he could use it to, not only did it rely on Chu Feng's own cultivation, it also relied on the level of approval by the secret skill itself, which also meant, even though the secret skill was in Chu Feng's body, and as long as Chu Feng did not die, the secret skill could forever be used by Chu Feng. The secret skill still had life. Although it could not speak anymore, its intelligence was still there, and it could still control the amount of power it entrusted to Chu Feng. The white-colored fog that surrounded Chu Feng gradually became less and less. The white tiger's words also dimmed down. However, when the fog dissipated and when the words were gone, the secret skill, the white tiger slaughtering technique, already thoroughly melded with Chu Feng, and they became one. The white tiger slaughtering technique. Let me, Chu Feng, experience your power. Chu Feng was extremely excited. He raised his hand, extended his finger, and a strand of white-colored mist flowed out from his fingertip. The white-colored mist seemed extremely fragile, but in reality, it contained extremely great power. With a bang, it was like an arrow leaving a bow, and it explosively shot out from Chu Feng's fingertip. Its speed was extremely quick, and it almost surpassed Chu Feng's line of sight. Its might was like lightning. Its speed was as fast as a shooting star, and with unstoppable power, it shot straight into the tomb's wall. The tomb was created by special materials, and despite being battered up from everything that happened before, it did not collapse. The walls could be said to be complete, but Chu Feng's attack from his finger completely penetrated through the wall. The power was shocking. That's so strong. Eggy, did you see that? I got the secret skill, the white tiger slaughtering technique. With this, in unexpected circumstances, even those at the 7th level of the origin realm would be killed by me. Chu Feng was madly happy. The power of the white tiger slaughtering technique was truly too strong. Its might was almost unstoppable, and unless the opponent's speed was greater than his, almost no one would be able to block the attack of the white tiger slaughtering technique. Eggy. However, just at that time, Chu Feng's expression changed greatly. No matter how much he called out in the connection, he did not receive Eggy's reply. That made Chu Feng a bit nervous. He quickly sat cross-legged and sent his awareness into the spiritual world. When he entered the world spirit space, his slightly nervous face lost all color. He frighteningly discovered that Eggy's current complexion was deathly white. Even her body seemed illusory and misty. It was like she became a consciousness as she laid in the middle of the world spirit space, and her aura was extremely weak. Eggy, what happened to you? Chu Feng completely panicked. He fell in front of Eggy and wanted to embrace her, but he discovered that his arms passed straight through Eggy's body, as if she was only an illusion. Seemingly feeling Chu Feng's actions, Eggy, who had both her eyes shut, gradually opened them. Her slender and long eyebrows lightly trembled. Her eyes squinted to form two sweet and beautiful crescent moons. The corner of her mouth rose to a charming curve, and she said with an extremely faint voice, "Chu Feng, you idiot. I seems that I have to leave for a while, and it seems that I won't be able to cultivate with you." Eggy, what happened to you? What do you mean? Where are you going? Chu Feng was extremely uneasy and he already lost his mind. Subconsciously, he knew that something was greatly wrong. Bastard, you still dare call me Eggy. I told you to call me as Milady Queen. Eggy beautifully smiled and it moved one's heartstrings. However, when Chu Feng saw that, at that moment, his heart felt sour and the emotions he was feeling were ineffable. Milady Queen, what happened to you? Tell me, okay, why did I do wrong? Are you going to leave me? Chu Feng's heart was extremely tight and his eyes were even a bit moist. Despite not knowing Eggy for too long, Eggy had grew along with Chu Feng. Both of them shared one body, and Eggy even accompanied Chu Feng as he experienced everything in his memories. That feeling was indescribable with words. "Don't worry, I'm just tired. I'll be fine after I sleep for a while. You got the secret skill right?" Eggy asked with concern. Chu Feng firmly nodded. "It's great if you got it, so that forcefully taking over your body was not in vain." Eggy's smile got more and more sweet, but her body got more and more transparent. It could be seen that she was already prepared to face that situation. "Did my body rebound and cause damage to you, or did you exhaust your cultivation for me? What happened?" Chu Feng finally heard the inklings, and he was endlessly regretting in his heart. "No need to blame yourself. No matter what the reason was, it was voluntary. At the same time that you cultivate diligently, you need to protect yourself. Although I cannot watch as you and Gong Lion fight, I know that you can win. Remember, I am here with you and you are not fighting alone." After speaking those words, Eggy's body became weaker and weaker. At the end, she even became lights with diverse color. Those lights had all sorts of colors, and they were extremely beautiful. They encircled Chu Feng as they revolved around him, as if not willing to part with him, but they had to do the final farewell. "Eggy, what can I do to save you? What can I do to save you?" Chu Feng kept on yelling, but there was no response. Only when the light that surrounded him disappeared did he powerlessly sit on the ground limply, as his gaze became lifeless. His heart ached as Eggy left him like that. He was unable to feel Eggy's aura anymore, and pain that was unspeakable started to spread out from his heart. It was as though his soul was split in half as it went away with her. "Eggy, I will save you." After a while, Chu Feng slowly came to his senses. The helplessness on his face faded away, and replacing it was determination. Although the current him could not feel Eggy's aura, the spirit connection contract that he made with Eggy was still there. It meant that she was not dead yet, so there was certainly a way to reawaken her, even though he did not know what method that was. It did not mean that otherworld spiritists did not know. So, Chu Feng needed to return to the Azure Dragon School and ask for Zhuge Lian's assistance. All in all, he had to save Eggy without caring about the price. After deciding that, Chu Feng did not hesitate, and he first looked around in the tomb. He wanted to find some treasures that were left behind by Murong Zioyao, but he discovered that other than the deciphered symbols and formation patterns left behind by the purple-clothed girl, there was truly nothing there. As he could do nothing about it, Chu Feng could only look at the world spirit gray cloak that he forcefully took from the purple-clothed girl. He found out that it was not simple at all. It was certainly a valuable thing, and perhaps in the future he could sell it for a good price, so that he could buy some origin beads for him to cultivate. He entered the black hole, and after the guidance of the attractive force in the darkness, Chu Feng arrived at a certain location in the White Tiger mountain range. He focused and looked, and he could still see the White Tiger villa, which was still in battle. However, at that moment, there were no yelling and killing sounds from before, and it seemed like the battle was stabilized. Chu Feng did not pay attention to that. He found the quick horse from before and started to return to the Azure Dragon School. The White Tiger mountain range was sealed, and those who with weak cultivation had almost no way of leaving. But after some investigation, Chu Feng still found an exit. After some wandering around, he finally returned to the Azure Dragon School. However, at the entrance to the Azure Dragon School, he discovered that they were a group of people surrounding there. As he looked more carefully, it turned out that several inner court disciples were beating two people up. The people who were doing the beating were part of the well-known organization in the inner court of the Azure Dragon School, and they were members of the Sword Alliance. The people who were being beaten, on the other hand, were two familiar faces. They were the Chu family brothers, Chu Cheng and Chu Zhen. "I tell all of you to get the hell out of the Azure Dragon School, but none of you listened. You don't want to leave. That's fine, don't leave. I'll beat you up until you leave." As the Sword Alliance members started beating, they cursed as well. Chu Cheng and Chu Zhen said nothing as they hugged their heads with both of their hands. No matter how much more they were hit or humiliated, they did not beg at all. "Ah, The Sword Alliance is too unreasonable. For the entire day, they bullied the Chu family members, but the elders didn't care. How will the Chu family continue to survive in the Azure Dragon School? Who can this be blamed on? If it had to blamed on someone, it could only be blamed on that Chu Feng from the Chu family, who told him to offend the one disciple of our Azure Dragon School, Senior Gong Lion, right? That's right. Who doesn't know Senior Gong? He's the future head of the Azure Dragon School. If you offend Senior Gong, you offend the Azure Dragon School. This Chu Feng could cover the sky with all his nerves. The observing crowd pointed and blamed, and the Sword Alliance members got more violent as they hit. God damn, kneel on the ground and beg or else I'll destroy your cultivation. Suddenly, a single Sword Alliance member pulled out a black iron sword from his back and pointed it at Chu Feng. Ha, if you have the guts, go ahead. Wait until Chu Feng returns. He will not forgive any of you. Chu Feng fiercely howled. Although there was fear on his face, he was not willing to give in. That's right. We've remembered everyone who bullied my Chu family people in these days. When Chu Feng comes back, none of you should even think of escaping. Chu Jin also started to shout, as if telling everyone the grievances that they received in these days. Chu Feng, you really have high hopes for him. He already ran away with his tail between his legs because he offended Senior Gong. You're waiting for him to save you too, dreams of idiots. The Sword Alliance members all sneered. Ha, just you wait. Sooner or later, there will be a day of crying for all of you. Chu Feng opened his mouth and spat a piece of phlegm onto the clothes of that Sword Alliance member. You've really gotten tired of living. I'll cripple you right now. Let's see what this Chu Feng will do about this. The Sword Alliance member was enraged. He raised his sword and stabbed straight towards Chu Feng's dantian. After that, when a painful cry rang out, all of the observers were greatly stunned. At that very moment, Chu Feng was not the one who cried out and on the floor. It was the Sword Alliance member. On his body, there was a big foot there, and that big foot was twisting back and forth on his back. One could hear the sounds of bone snapping, and it was currently making even more cracking sounds. When people saw the owner of the big foot, everyone's expression changed and someone even yelled out uncontrollably, Chu Feng, it's him. He dared to return. In the past few days, Chu Feng's infamous name already spread out the Azure Dragon School. Even nearby schools heard of his name. After all, Gong Lion's strength could be said to be top level. Even many core disciples in first-rate schools did not dare to offend him. So, when people knew that someone challenged Gong Lion, there was indeed a huge reaction. Exactly because of that reason, many Nosy people wanted to know what Chu Feng looked like. So, some other Nosy people drew Chu Feng's appearance. They even set a price and sold them. Currently, in the Azure Dragon School, almost everyone knew who Chu Feng was, and almost everyone knew what he looked like. But at that instant, everyone was shocked because Chu Feng dared to reappear in the Azure Dragon School. However, the following actions that Chu Feng did completely stupefied them. Chu Feng grabbed the air and the black iron sword flew straight into his hand. After that, he ferociously stabbed. Fresh blood splattered everywhere as he stabbed into the Sword Alliance member's dantian from his back. That member first painfully cried. Then, like a leather ball that had no air, he laid on the ground and did not move anymore. At that instant, there were only 3 words in his heart. He was finished. When the spiritual energy in his dantian started to quickly leak out, no matter how hard he tried to condense it, yet was unable to control it. He knew that he was crippled by losing his cultivation. All the cultivation that he painstakingly stored up from the many years all became non-existent. When they saw that scene, the ones who were the most shocked were none other than the Sword Alliance members. Their faces were ashen, and their gazes towards Chu Feng was filled with terror. Didn't all of you wanted to know how I would take care of you? Right now, I'll let you know how I, Chu Feng, will take care of you. Chu Feng's expression turned icy cold, and the black iron sword in his hand violently trembled as he continuously stabbed at the several members. The cold glare swept past and spiritual energy leaked. The results of many years of meticulous cultivating were all lost today. Heavens, Chu Feng crippled so many Sword Alliance members' cultivation. His nerves are too great. The surrounding crowd endlessly cried in surprise as they saw that scene. They felt that Chu Feng was too daring, because the rules of the school clearly forbid the murdering of people from the same school, and also the crippling of cultivation. Chu Feng was going to receive severe punishment because of his actions. At that instant, even Chu Cheng and Chu Jin panicked, although they knew that with Chu Feng's temper, he would indeed take revenge on the people that bullied and humiliated them. But they never would have thought that he would go that far and directly cripple their cultivation. Chu Cheng, Chu Jin, right now, are the Chu family members still in the Azure Dragon School. Chu Feng ignored the gazes of the crowd, and he only looked at the Cheng Zhen brothers who were climbing up from the ground. To avoid unnecessary humiliation, Chu Shui and the others already returned to the Chu family. Originally, Chu Wei was going to leave with Chu Iwei, however. Chu Iwei was not willing to go no matter what. She said that she was going to stay there and wait for you to return to speak fairness for us. So right now, in the Azure Dragon School, other than us two brothers, Chu Iwei and Chu Wei are also here. However, Chu Wei was heavily wounded in the morning. His hand and his foot was broken. We asked for help from the elders, but they did not care and they denied medical treatment. Since we could do nothing about it, we could only go down the mountain to buy some medicine. However, we never expected that they would block us at the entrance. Chu Cheng explained everything that happened in detail. What about Elder Su Ro and Elder Aoyang? Why didn't you ask them for help? Chu Feng felt a bit shocked. Within the inner court, it would still make sense if the others' elders didn't care about his Chu family. However, Su Ro should not have sat, stared, and did nothing. I've tried, but coincidentally, they had matters to attend to, and they are not in the Azure Dragon School. Chu Cheng helplessly shook his head. Why would that happen? Chu Feng slightly frowned, and he felt that the issue was not as simple as it seemed. With how Su Ro did things, even if she had things to do and she had to leave the Azure Dragon School, she would still order her subordinates to look after his Chu family. Something was clearly wrong with the current situation. Bring me to Chu Wei. Chu Feng spoke after a moment of deep thinking. Chu Feng and the two brothers speedily went, and very quickly, they arrived at Chu Wei's residence. The formerly perfect palace was already in pieces. Even the main door was smashed, and after entering, it was in an even worse situation. Chairs and tables were destroyed, and there was almost nothing that was undamaged. It simply looked like a broken temple, but it was clearly wrecked by people. Chu Feng's fists couldn't help but slightly tighten. The fury in his heart started to stir up. He never would have thought that the Sword Alliance people would act so unduly. He also never would have thought that even after doing all that, the elders did not care, and even though they saw it, they acted as if they didn't. All of our residences are like this. However, ours can be said to be quite nice when compared to your former palace. The palace that you lived in before was already burnt down and destroyed by someone. Chu Cheng said on the side. In these past few days, only the Sword Alliance members attacked all of you. Chu Feng asked as he walked up the stairs. He needed to remember everyone who attacked his Chu family. Although everyone gave us a smug look, the people who actually attacked were only Sword Alliance members. The founder of the Sword Alliance, Wu Jiu, is an expert ranked as 9th on the Azure Dragon leaderboard. He has some dealings with Gong Lion. Although on the surface, it seems like Wu Jiu arranged the Sword Alliance attack on us. In actuality, it was still Gong Lion who played tricks on us. Chu Cheng said. How do you know all this? Chu Feng had his doubts. With Chu Cheng's status, it was quite difficult to know all that information. Su Mei told us. Just at that time, Chu Iwei's voice came from above. He raised his head to look, and Chu Iwei was standing there. She was still quite beautiful and sweet, but her face was a lot more skinny, and there were some bruises on her forehead. Chu Iwei, they even beat you up? Chu Feng asked. Chu Iwei did not say anything. She only pulled Chu Feng up. That place was also in a mess. Even the windows were shattered, and it did not even look like a place that people lived in. In the corner of the room, there was an assembled, broken bed there. Chu Wei was laying on it, and bandages covered his body. His eyes were closed, and as he was fainted, he kept on groaning, ouch. Chu Feng was depressed in his heart, and he didn't say anything. He looked at Chu Iwei, who was in front of him, and also Chu Cheng and Chu Zhen. Chu Iwei wasn't even that bad. On the other hand, Chu Cheng and Chu Zhen had no uninjured areas throughout their entire body, other than the areas that were wounded just now. One could even see the traces of the former injuries. Chu Feng could totally imagine what kind of life they experienced in the past few days, and the reason why they remained there and endured the pain was all for Chu Feng. It was them who guarded the dignity of the Chu family for Chu Feng. At least it let people know that as they faced such bullying and humiliation, the Chu family would not lower their heads. Even if the Chu family had no strength to resist, they still had some unyielding spirit. Chu Iwei, bring Chu Wei back to the Chu family. Also, hold this. Let the Chu family move into the golden purple city. With Chen Hui's protection, I can be more at ease. Chu Feng gave his golden purple commanding badge to Chu Iwei. Chu Feng, what about you? You're not leaving. Chu Iwei tightly stared at Chu Feng as if she was interrogating him. Chu Feng did not avoid Chu Iwei's gaze, and he only faintly smiled before saying, I will let everyone in the Azure Dragon School know that my Chu family are not so good pushovers. Massacre Chu Feng personally sent Chu Iwei and the others off. Only when Chu Iwei and the others' carriage disappeared from his sight did he turn around to re-enter the Azure Dragon School. Just as he passed the entrance of the Azure Dragon School, a group of elders surrounded him. They were the people from the punishment department. The weakest had the cultivation of the first level of the origin realm, and the one who led had the cultivation of the second level of the origin realm. When he saw Chu Feng, without any warning, he shouted, take him down. At first, the elders from the punishment department did not even put Chu Feng in their eyes. Only 2 elders walked over. They did not even move their arms nor raise their hands. They only engulfed Chu Feng with their origin power, and they wanted to use the pressure of the origin realm to forcefully press Chu Feng down. Of course, when they pressed their origin power towards Chu Feng, it was completely useless. Nothing happened to Chu Feng, and he was not affected in the slightest. Who on the other hand, and just at that moment, change happened to Chu Feng's body. A layer of origin power surged out like a hurricane. Instantly, it submerged the elders from the punishment department. The strong power was unstoppable. Before the elders from the punishment department even reacted to what happened, they were pushed into the air by Chu Feng's strong aura. As they landed, their complexion was pale white, and they were heavily injured. The observing people were completely terrifying when they saw that scene. The elders in the punishment department were all at the origin realm. Chu Feng used his own power to pressure so many elders. So did that mean he also stepped into the origin realm? Go back and tell Liu Chenjin this. If he wants to take care of me, tell him to personally come. Chu Feng paid no attention to the complicated gazes of the crowd. He only indifferently shot a glance at the elders from the punishment department before heading towards the direction of the Sword Alliance headquarters. When he arrived there, Chu Feng directly attacked without any warning. Any Sword Alliance members that appeared within his sight had their dantian stabbed through and their cultivation destroyed. From what Chu Feng could do right now, he could easily kill those at the 4th level of the origin realm. If he used the golden-colored lightning, killing those at the 5th level of the origin realm was like squashing an ant. Even people at the 6th level of the origin realm might not be able to beat Chu Feng, not to mention the spirit realm inner court disciples. Chu Feng did not cripple them by destroying their hands or feet, but he crippled them by destroying their cultivation, and he did all of that with one strike. Although he only pierced their dantians, when several hundred inner court disciples were laying on the ground, that wretched scene was not something that could be taken in by any normal people. Chu Feng has returned, and he is currently openly slaughtering an inner court alliance. Blood formed rivers in the inner court, and even elders cannot control him. This person is too unrestrained, and he is really making an enemy out of the Azure Dragon School. The news of Chu Feng's actions quickly spread throughout the inner court. They even entered the core zone, and instantly, people from all sorts of places came to the inner court, and they wanted to observe that scene. Naturally, the inner court punishment department would not ignore Chu Feng's actions. Liu Chenjin personally went out, and he led several hundred elders from the punishment department and surrounded Chu Feng. They even yelled out mottos for killing Chu Feng. After all, he already had some history with Chu Feng, so he could use that chance to kill Chu Feng off. He was planning to avenge his grandson, Liu Mang. The surrounding crowd thought that Chu Feng was undoubtedly dead. After all, within the inner court, Liu Chenjin's name was very well known. However, when Liu Chenjin's troop arrived at the Sword Alliance headquarters, two more troops arrived at the same time as well. It was the Elder Building that Su Ro was in charge of, and also the Martial Skill Building that Elder Aoyang was in charge of. Elder Aoyang led dozens of people, whereas Su Ro led 1,000 or so people. In terms of might, it completely overpowered Liu Chenjin. Su Ro, what is this? This child broke the school rules and recklessly destroyed the cultivation of the disciples from the same school. My punishment department is apprehending him for that crime. As an elder in the Azure Dragon School, you are actually protecting him. Are you even qualified to be an elder of the Azure Dragon School? Liu Chenjin loudly questioned, as if he wanted all the surrounding disciples to know that Su Ro was in the wrong. Chu Feng is a core disciple, so even if he did anything wrong, it would not be your turn to punish him because you are not qualified to do so. Su Ro unhurriedly nor quickly said. She only nonchalantly shot Liu Chenjin a glance, and she did not even put him in her eyes. Elder Liu, I know that you have some personal grudges with Chu Feng, but I hope that you handle things accordingly and not bring your personal emotions into this issue. Although the things that Chu Feng did today were slightly excessive, they were not without reason. When the Sword Alliance was beating the Chu Alliance up, where was your punishment department? Elder Aoyang also spoke. Although his smile was very gentle, his tone was filled with ridicule. Liu Chenjin had no words to refute it. He could not deal with neither Su Ro nor Elder Aoyang, so he was unable to forcefully attack Chu Feng. However, he was not worried. After all, he was not the only person who wanted to deal with Chu Feng. When the people from the core zone arrive, even if he didn't attack himself, Chu Feng would not have an easy time. Chu Feng, you've really gotten things too big this time. How can you destroy the cultivation of so many disciples from the same school? This issue has already shook the entire Azure Dragon School. Even if my sister wants to protect you, she would be helpless. Su Mei also arrived. She was standing next to Chu Feng as she looked at the Sword Alliance members who were currently being treated by the elders. Within her beautiful eyes was worry. Of course, she wasn't worried about the safety of the Sword Alliance members, but she was worried about Chu Feng's safety. Now you've thought of me. When the Sword Alliance was bullying my Chu family, and I wasn't here, where were you and your sister? Chu Feng slightly grumbled as he shot Su Mei a glance. He was not worried or fearful because he could already use the spirit formation. So as long as Zhuge Lian knew about it, he would certainly take him in as his disciple. Within the Azure Dragon School, with that person's protection, who dared to even touch him, not to mention destroying the inner court disciples' cultivation, even if he killed them, he would only receive light punishment, and no one would dare to take his life. Chu Feng, if you thought like that, then you've really blamed me and my sister wrongly. After hearing Chu Feng's words, Su Mei had grievances all over her face. She pouted her mouth and said, although it was Wu Jiu who bullied your Chu family, in reality, it was under the incitement of Gong Lion. On the day that the Sword Alliance started to act, my sister was going to come out. However, at that time, Gong Lion found my sister. He wanted to have a bet with my sister. He said, as long as she could defeat him, he would leave your life in the arranged battle in 1 year. However, if my sister lost, he didn't make things too difficult for her. He only requested that me and my sister, to not interfere with the issue between the Sword Alliance and the Chu Alliance. If my sister didn't become an elder, she would have been the #1 disciple in the Azure Dragon School. In addition, my Vermilion Bird City was already on bad terms with his Black Tortoise City, so naturally, my sister was not afraid of Gong Lion. She agreed to the fight and she wanted to give him a lesson. However, it was unexpected that my sister lost, and she lost very thoroughly. Although she was unwilling to, she had to keep her word, so my sister had no choice but to not care about those things, and she had no way of meddling with the issue between the Sword Alliance and the Chu Alliance. Su Mei's face was full of grievance as she spoke the truth in detail. Gong Lion defeated your sister. Chu Feng was a bit surprised. He had seen Su Ro's methods before, and although she was only at the first level of the profound realm, she was certainly top class. After all, she was almost titled as the #1 disciple. Currently, Gong Lion was also at the first level of the profound realm. If he was able to defeat Su Ro, that meant that in terms of methods, Gong Lion was stronger than Su Ro. Not only did he defeat my sister, he even defeated Elder Aoyang. Su Mei cast her gaze towards the not-so-distant Elder Aoyang. Even Elder Aoyang was defeated. Chu Feng's tightened eyebrows were even more tightened. Many people did not know Elder Aoyang's abilities because he concealed them very deeply. However, from Su Mei, he knew that Elder Aoyang already entered the profound realm a long time ago. Currently, he was rushing towards the second level of the profound realm. He was truly at the peak of the first level of the profound realm. Su Ro and Elder Aoyang had quite a close relationship, so she had sparred with Elder Aoyang before. Although they ended up in a tie, in reality, Elder Aoyang restrained himself for Su Ro. If Gong Lion was able to continuously defeat both Su Ro and Elder Aoyang, that made Chu Feng suddenly realize that Gong Lion might not seem as simple as he looked. Chu Feng, since the elders from the core zone have not arrived yet, quickly run. Go to my Vermilion Bird City, and without a doubt, you will be safe. Su Mei leaned on Chu Feng's body and quietly said that next to his ear. Is it your wish or you sisters? Chu Feng smiled and asked. It is my sister's and it is also mine. Both of us hope that nothing bad will happen to you. Su Mei's gaze was full of pleading. She was really afraid that Chu Feng would be too stubborn and remain there to die. You two really treat me well. Chu Feng chuckled, extended his hand and lovingly rubbed Su Mei's soft and bright hair before walking out of the group of people. At that instant, the depression in Chu Feng's heart already disappeared like the clouds, because he knew that Su Ro and Su Mei did not abandon his family, but they had their difficulties. At the end, it was still all for him. Chu Feng, where are you going? Seeing that, Su Mei tugged Chu Feng, because she found out that the direction he was going towards was off. Since this Wu Jiu treated my Chu family like so, I can't let him go and not do anything right. Chu Feng faintly smiled. What, are you crazy? You want to go to the core zone and challenge Wu Jiu? Su Mei was terrified by Chu Feng's words, but she could not hold him back. With a blink, Chu Feng already jumped out of the crowd and crazily ran towards the core zone. Chu Feng wants to run, catch him. Su Ro, you have intentions of protecting this child. I will report today's matters to the head of the school. When he saw that, Liu Chenjin panicked. If Chu Feng remained in the Azure Dragon School, it would be fine, and it would be hard for him to escape death. However, if Chu Feng escaped, even if he wanted to kill Chu Feng, it would be too difficult. At first, when Su Ro and Elder Aoyang saw that, they hiddenly rejoiced. Not only did they not follow, they even took the chance to bother. They ordered their subordinates to disturb Liu Chenjin's subordinates to cover Chu Feng as he escaped. However, when they discovered what direction Chu Feng was escaping towards, their faces, which were full of happiness, turned into a forehead with black lines. How was Chu Feng escaping? He was simply throwing himself into a net and going ahead to kill himself. This guy, why doesn't he let people be free of worries? Su Yuo's face reddened from anger as she stood where she was and stamped her foot. After thinking for a bit, her alluring figure went forward and she chased after Chu Feng. Elder Aoyang was no exception as he closely followed as well. He wanted to see what Chu Feng was going to do. Chu Feng was extremely fast, and very quickly he rushed into the core zone from the inner court. After entering the core zone, he did not stop, and he directly arrived in a plaza. The plaza was circular and its construction was quite unique. In the very middle, there was a huge fighting stage. That fighting stage was red-colored, as if it was dyed by blood, and it was extremely eye-grabbing. There was even a big red-colored bell in the center of the fighting stage. On the big bell, there was a huge sign hung there. On the sign, there were several big words: Life and Death Stage for Grudges. Like an agile monkey, Chu Feng leaped up and arrived in front of the big bell. He struck it a few times, and the sound of the bell echoed in the air. It almost resonated throughout the core zone, and very quickly, it attracted the observation of the surrounding core disciple, because they could hear that it was the bell for the life and death stage for grudges. The life and death stage, like its name, if there were any grudges, life and death would be decided there. Although there were the school rules for the Azure Dragon School, as long as there were 2 disciples that had grudges that could not resolved and had to resolve them with their lives, they could indeed come to that place. However, before that, they needed to sign the life and death certificate. Those who dared to strike the big bell on the life and death stage meant that they were going to carry a life and death duel. That scene contained liveliness that people wanted to see the most. At that very moment, almost everyone from the core zone arrived. There were even quite a few elders. Look, isn't that Chu Feng? Didn't he start a massacre in the inner court? How does he dare to come here? This boy is too audacious. First, he offended Senior Gong. Then he madly wounded inner court disciples. And now he is on the life and death stage. What is he going to do now? Chu Feng's infamous name already spread throughout the Azure Dragon School, and even his drawings were posted everywhere. Anyone could recognize Chu Feng, and they were bewildered by his actions. At that instant, everyone had the same thought in their hearts. That boy was looking to die. When people formed mountains and oceans around the life and death stage, Chu Feng stopped banging the big bell. He straightened his back and loudly yelled at the crowd who surrounded the stage, "Come up and die." What? He wants to challenge Wu Jiu on the life and death stage. In order to fight on the life and death stage, he has to sign the life and death certificate. Chu Feng really is looking to die. He doesn't want to live anymore, right? Who is Wu Jiu? He's the founder of the Sword Alliance and the eldest son of the Sword family that had been around for generations. He is 9th on the Azure Dragon leaderboard, and he has the cultivation of the 5th level of the Origin realm. Chu Feng dares to challenge him. When Chu Feng's words came out, they were like thunder in a clear day, and everyone was shocked. So shocked that the floors were filled with jaws, and some people even thought that Chu Feng was joking. However, when Chu Feng yelled Wu Jiu, "Come up and die," for a few more times, people knew that Chu Feng was serious. 1st level of the Origin realm. This boy entered the 1st level of the Origin realm already. Finally, some experts in the Origin realm, who were at the scene, felt Chu Feng's cultivation. Although the cultivation of the 1st level of the Origin realm was not very strong, when that cultivation was placed onto Chu Feng's body, people had no choice but to look at Chu Feng in another perspective and reevaluate that young man, not to mention what it meant to enter the 1st level of the Origin realm at that age. The most important thing was when Chu Feng just entered the core zone, he only had the cultivation of the 7th level of the Spirit realm. Before 2 months of time even passed, he passed 2 levels of cultivation and jumped over a huge gap to be at the 1st level of the Origin realm. That speed of improvement did not make any sense. This Chu Feng is not simple, and it turns out that he is quite a genius. If he continued to develop like that, he would certainly become an outstanding person. However, regrettably, he was too arrogant, and he said a life or death arranged battle. In 1 year, no matter how much stronger he gets, he cannot defeat Senior Gong. Some people saw Chu Feng's potential and felt pity for him. HMPH, where's the need for a whole year? Today, this child will lose. Wu Jiu and Senior Gong have quite a good relationship, and Wu Jiu already disliked Chu Feng. And right now, Chu Feng dares to go onto the life and death stage to challenge Wu Jiu. How can Wu Jiu let him go? However, some people also thought that Chu Feng could not escape today's calamity. Who challenges me? Just at that time, another explosive shout sounded out, and a body swept past the ground and at the end, stably landed on the fighting stage. It was a person with a thin body, average height, unsightly appearance, shrimp-like nose, toad-like eyes, a whole row of colored teeth. And when he spoke, his stench would spread for 30 meters. If he had at anyone's face, that person would kneel on the ground and keep on throwing up. However, although his appearance was horrible, he was quite famous in the core zone. He was the founder of the Sword Alliance, 9th ranked in the Azure Dragon leaderboard, Wu Jiu. You are Wu Jiu. Chu Feng's eyes lit up. For the first time in his life, he discovered that there was such an unusual-looking person in the world. His nostril widened and his big mouth was drawn back. He hit his shriveled stomach and said smugly, "I am Wu Jiu. You are challenging me." "I'm not challenging you. I'm here to kill you." Chu Feng coldly smiled and said, "Fine, I'll grant your wish. Elder, bring the life and death certificate over. Today, I will finish this brat off here." Wu Jiu yelled his throat out and howled down. If he spoke to an inner court elder like that, it was excusable. However, he was quite daring if he spoke to a core elder like that. Many core disciples inhaled a breath of cool air as they thought that even though Chu Feng was mad, Wu Jiu was even madder. However, the thing that made people speechless was soon after Wu Jiu spoke. There was unexpectedly a core elder that walked out from the ground, and he slowly went onto the fighting stage. He held an ink brush and ink in his left hand, and the life and death certificate in his right, as he arrived in front of Wu Jiu. Damn, what is Wu Jiu's status? How can he call core elders just like that? Some people were quite astonished. That elder's cultivation was not low, and he was at the 7th level of the origin realm, 2 levels higher than Wu Jiu. However, he listened to Wu Jiu's words just like that, and it made people too shocked. You probably don't know about this, right? A few days ago, Wu Jiu paid his respects to Elder Zhongli and became his disciple. He is already officially Elder Zhongli's direct disciple. Elder Zhongli, the eccentric Zhongli Yihu, that's right him. Heavens, Wu Jiu became his disciple. Everyone was shocked once again. Zhongli Yihu was quite famous in the Azure Dragon School. In terms of personal strength, he would be ranked as 3rd in the Azure Dragon School. Even if any of the 6 protectors fought him alone, they could not defeat him. However, Zhongli Yihu was just like Zhuge Liang. He was also a guest elder, so he was only in the Azure Dragon School as a title. He did not care about anything else, not to mention passing his skill down to any disciples. Currently, Wu Jiu being able to become his disciple attracted people's endless admiration. The life and death stage for grudges can indeed determine one's lives. However, there must be grudges. What grudges do the two of you have? That elder spoke to question. He bullied my family. Is that a grudge? Chu Feng replied. This brat destroyed the cultivation of several hundred of my subordinates. Is that not a grudge? Wu Jiu coldly snorted. Sign your names and leave a blood mark. The elder said. When everything was in place, that elder left the fighting stage. Only Wu Jiu and Chu Feng remained on the stage that seemed to be dyed by blood. Brat, I wanted to kill you for such a long time, but I never would have thought that you would deliver yourself right up to my doorstep. You even so openly challenged me. Today, if I don't grant your wish of dying, I would really feel sorry for your idiotic heart. Wu Jiu clenched with one hand and his origin power surged. A fine longsword was condensed out. That sword was extremely beautiful. It was simply as beautiful as it could get. However, it was not a real sword, and it was only created by Wu Jiu's condensed origin power. It was a rank 5 martial skill that was not inferior to the bow of 100 transformations. Go ahead. Let's see how you will grant my wish. Chu Feng had an indifferent expression, and he did not even put Wu Jiu in his eyes. I only need one blow against people like you. Wu Jiu coldly yelled and waved the longsword in his hand. He stabbed the air towards the direction of Chu Feng. Asterisk boom asterisk after he stabbed, rumbling came from all directions. Peerless tyrannical sword energy was condensing in the air. As it howled, it flew towards Chu Feng. Asterisk swoosh asterisk, the sword energy broke through the air, and the surrounding origin power was displaced. That was not a martial skill, but it was better than a martial skill. It was a strike that Wu Jiu formed with his will, but that might was no weaker than normal martial skills. Strong. Wu Jiu is indeed worthy of being the founder of the Sword Alliance. His attainment in sword techniques are really too powerful. Wu Jia's attack raised all sorts of cries of surprise in the crowd. Even many core elders couldn't help but nod as they gave high opinions. But compared to Wu Jia's quite impressive sword technique, even more people stared at Chu Feng without blinking. They wanted to see how Chu Feng was going to die. Asterisk whoosh asterisk, but obviously, Chu Feng was going to disappoint them. Just as the sword energy was nearing Chu Feng, with the wave of Chu Feng's big sleeve, a layer of origin power surged out, and layer by layer, it dissolved the sword energy. At the end, it completely dissipated. Damn, that isn't true, is it? Chu Feng dissolved Wu Jia's attack. Perhaps those at the spirit realm could not understand that scene, however. Those at the origin realm saw everything clearly. Evidently, Chu Feng used his power at first level of the origin realm to easily dissolve Wu Jia's sword energy, which was at the 5th level of the origin realm. This child is quite impressive. He used his cultivation of the 1st level of the origin realm to destroy an attack at the 5th level of the origin realm. That really does not comply with common sense. An elder couldn't help but yell in surprise, as Chu Feng's methods were quite terrifying. No need to be shocked by such a small thing. Things like defeating the strong as the weak had been done before. According to legends, during the young age of our Azure Dragon School's founder, he defeated those in the profound realm, when he was only in the origin realm. Now that's the real defeating the strong as the weak. Another core elder disdainfully said, "Nonsense. Of course our founder would be strong. After all, he was the #1 expert in the 9 provinces. However, since Chu Feng can do all this to this degree, does that mean he is also a genius?" This, you are quite correct. With his talent, he can be said to be genius. However, I see that Wu Jiu has not used his full strength yet, and any conclusions right now are too early. An extra hint of seriousness were in the elders' gazes as they looked at Chu Feng again. "Your strike was quite weak. Do you have any other techniques?" Chu Feng chuckled and said after dissolving Wu Jia's attack. "HMPH. Since it has come to this, I'll let you experience how terrifying I am when I get serious." Wu Jiu coldly snorted, and he lifted the longsword in his hand, then suddenly sliced it upwards. A huge half-moon appeared and flew towards Chu Feng. Rank 5 martial skill, half-moon chop. No, it is not a simple half-moon chop. It is a rank 5 martial skill that is displayed with the prerequisite of another rank 5 martial skill. It is a double-layered martial skill. When the half-moon appeared, some people were greatly shocked, and with a glance, they recognized it as an extremely strong martial skill in the Azure Dragon School. That martial skill had to be used by a sword, and if it was successful, the sword energy would be like a half-moon. Dazzling, beautiful, and oppressing. Not only did Wu Jiu master the half-moon chop, he even used it with the longsword that he condensed out from a rank 5 martial skill. That half-moon chop had extremely frightening power, and not an ordinary person could block that attack. At that instant, everyone cast their gazes towards Chu Feng once again. The half-moon chop was quite exceptional, no matter if it was about the speed or the power. It would explode with a thought from the one who used it, and there was no way of dodging it. Chu Feng only brought a light smile on his face while being gazed by countless people. Without any hurry, and only until the half-moon chop neared him, he slowly raised his right arm and directly punched out. Asterisk boom asterisk origin power rose everywhere when that punch was thrown out. Strong might caused ripples on the stage like a spiral as it forcibly canceled the half-moon chop. Asterisk him asterisk Just as the punch dissipated the half-moon chop, Chu Feng clenched one of his hands, and a golden-colored longsword that was dazzling in all directions condensed within his palm. "Your attack is too weak, so I will let you experience mine." While holding the longsword in his hand, lightning rose from his feet, and almost in an instant, he arrived in front of Wu Jiu. A golden light swept past, and it stabbed towards Wu Jiu's heart. This guy. At that moment, Wu Jiu lost all color on his face from astonishment because currently, at such a distance, he finally felt Chu Feng's strength. The feeling of oppression did not belong to someone at the first level of the origin realm. It was not even any weaker than him. However, after all, Wu Jiu was the genius within a sword family, putting aside the fact that he founded the Sword Alliance. Just by being able to be accepted by Zhongli Yihu as a disciple, already stated his outstandingness. The longsword in his hand trembled, and it undulated like a water snake. It pushed Chu Feng's golden-colored longsword aside. Then after flipping over his hand, he swept it towards Chu Feng's throat. Now it's a bit more interesting. Chu Feng chuckled, and his battle desires were stirred up. Not only did he not retreat, using his spirit power detection, his imperial sky technique methods, and the golden-colored longsword clenched in his hand, he fought with Wu Jiu. Asterisk whoosh 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 asterisk. The afterimages of the swords flew everywhere, and radiance shot in all directions. Every time they clashed, there would be an energy ripple that swept and devastated everything on the fighting stage. However, the two people continued were as if nothing happened to them. They displayed sword techniques that dazzled one's eyes, attacking occasionally, defending occasionally, and the people who watched it had dried mouths and tongues from all the talking, and their moods were boiling. Such brilliant sword techniques. No need to talk about Wu Jiu. But I never would have thought that even Chu Feng had such high skill in terms of sword techniques. That Chu Feng is really quite impressive. He can use the cultivation of the first level of the origin realm to fight Wu Jiu, who is at the 5th level of the origin realm to this degree. People stared as they were dumbfounded, and many disciples admired Chu Feng's display. How was he the trash that people said before? He was simply an unprecedented genius. He used the cultivation of the first level of the origin realm to battle someone with the cultivation of the 5th level of the origin realm. He skipped 4 levels of cultivation. People had to admire that talent. This guy is really able to force Wu Jiu to this point. Why did he suddenly become even stronger than before? When I see him again, he is even so much stronger. How did he cultivate to have such quick improvements? But compared to other people, Su Mei's face was extremely complicated. She suddenly discovered that the distance between her and Chu Feng was huge. Without her knowing, she was already left behind, and she could not even touch Chu Feng anymore. HMPH, all of you overestimate Chu Feng too much. Do you not see that Wu Jiu is fooling around with that Chu Feng? Don't you see that he hasn't used his full strength yet? When Wu Jiu gets serious, Chu Feng will undoubtedly die. However, some people also thought that the reason why the two of them could fight to that point was because Wu Jiu did not use everything he had. Most of those people were the ones who hated Chu Feng and wanted him to die. The more miserable his death was, the better. It was because in their hearts, they were not willing to admit that Chu Feng was a genius. That's enough. I've played enough with you, and right now, I will let you experience my special skill, the Fatal Strike. Suddenly, Wu Jiu loudly yelled, and just as the might of the sword rose, he completely disappeared. However, in the instant that he disappeared, strong sword energy condensed around Chu Feng, and the entire fighting stage darkened. Look, it's Wu Jiu's famous skill, the Fatal Strike. Heavens, this will really be the Fatal Strike. It's finished. Everything is finished. With the Fatal Strike, Chu Feng will certainly die. Looking at the dusky fighting stage that had killing intent lingering around it, everyone unceasingly cried in surprise, and no one could remain calm, because some people already recognized that it was Wu Jiu's strongest killing method. That martial skill was not a martial skill from the Azure Dragon School, nor was it a martial skill from Wu Jiu's family. It was a martial skill that only Wu Jiu had. It was an extremely powerful martial skill. There were many rumors about that skill. Some people said that Wu Jiu found it in some historical remains. There were also people who said that Wu Jiu received the inheritance of a certain expert. Some people even suspected the reason why Zhongli Yihu took Wu Jiu as his disciple was because he wanted to get Wu Jia's fatal strike. The fatal strike had extremely terrifying might. Although it was also a rank 5 martial skill, in reality, its might could even be compared to rank 6 martial skills. When used, it would only display a single level of might. During the dusking sky and the darkening ground, a cold glare would sweep past. That would be the time of death. There was also another type of rumor. When exchanging blows with Wu Jiu, never let him use that skill because if he did, his opponent would undoubtedly fall under his sword. Even if their strength was above Wu Jiu, they would not be able to defend against it. At that moment, since Wu Jiu used that skill, almost everyone on scene felt that Chu Feng was dead. Even Su Mei and Su Ro tightly frowned and tightly clenched their hands. They deeply broke out in a cold sweat for Chu Feng. Finally, within the chaotic darkness, a cold shine streaked across with the curve of a half-moon. Fresh blood also sprayed out, and at that instant the darkened stage returned to its former appearance. Heavens this! However, when people saw the scene on the stage, the expression of every single one of them changed greatly. They were dumbstruck and so shocked that they couldn't even shut their mouths close. Some people's tongue even started to tremble, because at that very moment, Chu Feng still stood on the stage. Not to say any bloody wounds. There was not even a single trace of injury on his body. There was not even any dust on his face. That was calmness. That was tranquility. That was repose. That was unhurriedness. That was called truly being at ease. Looking back at Wu Jiu, his knees were on the ground as he knelt there. 2 blood streams were quickly flowing from his knees as they intertwined, becoming a beautiful blood painting. At that instant, no one could remain calm because what they imagined was Chu Feng's being in all sorts of miserable scenes. However, they never would have expected that the ending was the scene in front of them. Wu Jiu, who was at the 5th level of the Origin realm. Wu Jiu, who was ranked 9th in the Azure Dragon leaderboard. Wu Jiu, who used the fatal strike, was defeated by Chu Feng's sword, and he was utterly defeated. You lost. Just at that time, the golden-colored longsword in Chu Feng's hand landed on Wu Jia's shoulder and next to his neck. Seeing that, everyone's expression changed greatly once again. They could see the surging killing intent within Chu Feng's gaze. As they saw the cold smile that hung on the corner of Chu Feng's mouth, he was absolutely not joking. Chu Feng was really going to kill. However, it could not be forgotten that Wu Jia's family was a family of swords that had been around for generations. Wu Jia's bro was Gong Lion, and Wu Jia's master was Zhongli Yihu. Chu Feng could not anger any one of those 3. If Chu Feng dared to kill Wu Jiu, he was certainly looking to die. After that, Chu Feng moved. His sword moved. Everyone knew that Wu Jiu was dead. No matter how Chu Feng was going to end, at that very instant, Wu Jiu was fated to be killed by Chu Feng. Stop! Just at that time, a fierce yell suddenly sounded out. It exploded out like thunder and shook everyone to the point that their ears were ringing. Some weaker people even forcefully lost consciousness. As they looked over, they couldn't help but stare blankly. An old man was standing outside of the life and death stage, and with fixed eyes, he stared at Chu Feng. That old man wore a black-colored robe, and he had a black-colored longsword behind his back. His eyes were very strange, and they were as sharp as an eagle's. At that instant, they were even staring coldly at Chu Feng. Zhongli Yihu. Those who had sharp eyes recognized who that person was. It was the well-known guest elder of the Azure Dragon School. Zhongli Yihu. Zhongli Yihu is here. Wu Jiu is saved. Wu Jia's friends breathed a sigh of relief because they felt that Chu Feng would not possibly kill Wu Jiu in front of that person. To know that Zhongli Yihu was a profound realm expert. In the entire Azure Dragon School, he was ranked as one of the top characters. Besides, Zhongli Yihu's character was quite eccentric, and he was always quite proud. With his temper, if Chu Feng dared to kill Wu Jiu, he would certainly attack and kill Chu Feng. Yes, Chu Feng stopped his twitching golden-colored longsword, and he indifferently shot a glance at Zhongli Yihu. "Friend, Wu Jiu is my disciple. Can you give me some face and spare his life?" Zhongli Yihu calmly spoke, but there was not a single strand of intention to plead in his tone. Rather, it was as though he was ordering. HMPH. Chu Feng only coldly snorted at Zhongli Yihu's words. After that, he suddenly waved his arm and a golden shine swept past. The head of Wu Jiu fell on the ground. That scene terrified everyone. Not only did Chu Feng ignore Zhongli Yihu's request, he killed Wu Jiu in front of Zhongli Yihu's face. He even chopped off Wu Jiu's head. That action was quite insane. So insane that people had difficulty accept that. However, after Chu Feng spoke the following words, only then did people know what a true madman was. "You tell me to spare him, so I spare him. Who do you think you are?" Chu Feng grabbed Wu Jiu's head and disdainfully said that to Zhongli Yihu. "You tell me to spare him, so I spare him. Who do you think you are?" Chu Feng's words were quite loud and clear, not to mention the life and death stage. Even those outside of the life and death stage could hear it clearly because he used origin power when he spoke. That was right. He wanted to let everyone know that he, Chu Feng, did not give any face to that old guy. Damn, this Chu Feng is looking to die. He is looking to die. Chu Feng stupefied everyone, even the observers that had no relationship with him, broke into a cold sweat by him. At that instant, everyone subconsciously switched their cast towards Zhongli Yihu. If one did not look, they would not know, but if they did look, they would jump up into the air from being frightened. Zhongli Yihu's face was ashen. His eyes were widened so greatly that they were bigger than a cow's eyes, and they were even going to pop out. His cheek was going to burst, and those who were near him could even hear the sound of his teeth gnashing. Everyone knew that the important character was enraged by Chu Feng, and he was even quite enraged. Currently, he would certainly have the heart to kill Chu Feng. It was to the point that he would rip his corpse into 10,000 pieces. Bang, suddenly, Zhongli Yihu leaped into the air, and like a huge mountain, he landed on the fighting stage. The strong force shook the entire stage, and even Chu Feng swayed as he was on the stage, and he almost fell. "Someone, come. I will sign the life and death certificate with this boy." Zhongli Yihu pointed at Chu Feng and howled like a lion king. He was so loud that he could cause someone to go deaf. Indeed, Zhongli Yihu will attack. If he wants to kill Chu Feng, who can possibly block him? Although they expected that, when Zhongli Yihu really did started to make his move and prepared to attack, they still felt quite shocked. Whoosh just at that time, another figure leaped onto the fighting stage. It was a beautiful female. She was the #1 beauty as seen by the Azure Dragon School, Su Ro. Elder Zhongli, as an elder, there is no need to lower yourself to the young generation. Su Ro spoke. "Leave. When I speak, who are you to interrupt?" Zhongli Yihu waved his hand, and a strong wind came along with it. The strong force was like a storm that wreaked havoc on the fighting stage. Almost instantly, it engulfed Su Ro, and the strong power was going to tear Su Ro's white skirt into pieces. This old thing, seeing that, Chu Feng tightly clenched both of his fists, and he was going to rush into that storm because, in his heart, Su Ro was already his, and he would not let her clothes be shredded in front of the crowd. Whoosh, but before Chu Feng even got the chance to go, an old man leaped into that storm. In the split moment that he entered it, the storm dissipated, and Su Ro landed on the stage intactly once again. Elder Lai. Chu Feng couldn't help but be surprised because the person who helped Su Ru was Elder Lai, who also saved him from Gong Lion's hands. Elder Lai was an aged old guy, and there was barely any hair left on his head. He had a camel back, and he looked like a diseased sapling that could be blown away by a gust of wind. However, elderless cultivation was unfathomably deep. Chu Feng's spirit power had no way of probing the depth of his strength, but from him, easily dissolving Zhongli Yihu's methods, he could feel that elderless cultivation was no weaker than Zhongli Yihu. After seeing Elder Lai, Su Rou also calmed down and obediently stood next to Chu Feng. Although she did not understand Elder Lai that much, she had heard from Su Mei that he had unpredictable strength, and that he also had good impressions towards Chu Feng. Especially when Elder Lai just came out, she could feel that he was indeed very strong. He should not be any weaker than Zhongli Yihu. If Elder Lai protected Chu Feng, no matter what the cost was today, there would really be no one who could touch Chu Feng. Cough, cough, cough. After saving Su Rou, Elder Lai first had a burst of coughing, and it truly tore one's heart and split one's lung. He almost coughed out his liver, and after coughing for a good while, he slowly raised his head and advised Zhongli Yihu, Elder Zhongli, as the older generation, there is no need to interfere with the interactions between the younger generation, right? Elder Lai, you saw it as well. Not only did this Chu Feng kill my disciple, Wu Jiu, he even cut off his head. As his master, I wish to take revenge. What is wrong with that? Today, I will finish everything with Chu Feng on this life and death stage. If you say that I cannot do that, then I won't say anything. At most, I'll just resign from the position of being a guest elder in this Azure Dragon School, and not be part of your Azure Dragon School. However, I must kill this Chu Feng, Zhongli Yihu fiercely said. When his words came out, even Elder Lai slightly frowned, and the observers couldn't help but inhale a breath of cool air, because everyone could tell that Zhongli Yihu had to kill Chu Feng. There was no one who could save Chu Feng anymore. Elder Lai, speak bluntly. Can Chu Feng and I decide life and death on this life and death stage? Zhongli Yihu demanded again. This, Elder Lai was in a very difficult position. According to the rules, there were no status restrictions for the life and death stage for grudges. As long as there were grudges, and as long as both sides agreed, they could sign the life and death certificate and determine life and death. Without any choice, Elder Lai looked at Su Rou and secretly made a signal to her, and Su Rou comprehensively moved next to Chu Feng's ear and said, Chu Feng, Zhongli Yihu wants to challenge you, so do not accept it or else no one can save you. Don't worry, I'm not stupid. Chu Feng smiled. Naturally, he would not send himself to die because of some words. Chu Feng, even if you don't agree to this battle, I will kill you. No one can save you. Seeming to be aware the intentions of Chu Feng and the others, Zhongli Yihu pointed at Chu Feng and bellowed. At the same time, he cast his own pressure out. It was like an invisible hurricane and it spread everywhere. The strong pressure filled the entire life and death stage, the fourth level of the profound realm. Zhongli Yihu was a powerful person at the fourth level of the profound realm. Luckily, Elder Lai stood in front of Su Rou and Chu Feng. No matter how much more stronger the profound power hurricane was, it could not move Chu Feng or Su Rou. For the first time, Chu Feng and Su Rou deeply felt the strong power that Elder Lai had in his fragile body. However, Elder Lai only protected Chu Feng, and he did not attack. Both Chu Feng and Su Rou could understand why. After all, Zhongli Yihu was a guest elder for the Azure Dragon School. The so-called guest elder was an important character that the Azure Dragon School invited to stay. Those people could not be offended, not even Elder Lai. Although Elder Li's cultivation was unfathomably deep, everyone could tell that his position was extremely petty. He was on a completely different level when compared with Zhongli Yihu. Elder Lai, move, or else don't blame me if I kill you as well. Zhongli Yihu was really furious. He stepped forward and his profound power hurricane became even stronger. Although Elder Lai did not move, he tightly frowned. It could be seen that he was really in a difficult situation. When he saw Elder Lai in such a difficult situation, Chu Feng was a bit moved. He was considering if he should continue to hide behind the old man's back. When faced that situation, the people who wanted Chu Feng to die rejoiced from his misfortune. They already experienced Zhongli Yihu's bloodlust, and they felt that no one in the Azure Dragon School could save Chu Feng, and that he was certainly dead. Quite some tone you have there, old man Zhongli, since you're so arrogant. Why not let me play with you? But just as everyone felt that Chu Feng was going to die, another voice exploded in the air. At the same time, Pressure that was even stronger than Zhongli Yi's instantly enveloped that area. It completely suppressed Zhongli Yi's pressure. Just as that voice sounded out, and the pressure enveloped everything, a figure stood in front of Chu Feng like a ghost and put Chu Feng and Su Rou behind him. That person had a white cloak over his shoulders, and it also covered his face. It was none other than the world spiritist that the Azure Dragon School invited with an extremely high price, and also titled as the #2 expert in the Azure Dragon School, Zhuge Lian. It's Elder Zhuge. What is happening? Why is Elder Zhuge defending Chu Feng? Is there some relationship between the two? If it was said that Elder Li's appearance was still somewhat expected, Zhuge Lian's was definitely unexpected. His appearance could be said to shock everyone. To know that within the Azure Dragon School, the person who everyone feared the most was not the head of the Azure Dragon School, nor was it the 6 protectors, nor was it Zhongli Yi. At that very moment, it was the elder who stood in front of Chu Feng, Zhuge Lian. But compared to the bewilderment of others, Su Rou rejoiced. She had personally seen Zhuge Lian accept Chu Feng as his disciple, so she deeply knew that for the sake of Chu Feng, that old man killed Leng Wuzui, who followed him for many years. At that instant, since he appeared, no one could touch Chu Feng anymore. As her emotions were stirring up, Su Rou secretly cast her gaze towards Chu Feng. She found out that Chu Feng was calm and indifferent. Although there was also happiness hung on his face, there was not too many expressions of being surprised, as if everything was within expectations. As she saw that, Su Rou pursed her lips and hidden said in her heart, "This guy. No wonder he dared to do such audacious things. He already knew that Zhuge Lian would help him. Zhuge Lian, I just want to solve some personal grudges. Why do you need to make things more difficult for me?" Zhongli Yihu tightly frowned, and he couldn't help but lower the tone in his voice. It could be seen that he was afraid of Zhuge Lian as well. Personal grudges? What personal grudges? Zhuge Lian indifferently asked. "This child killed my disciple. As his master, I avenge my disciple. Is that a grudge?" Zhongli Yihu replied with a question. That is indeed a grudge. But since it is like this, that means I need to interfere with this matter even more. Zhuge Lian smiled. "What do you mean?" When those words came out, not only was Zhongli Yihu a bit stupefied, almost everyone on scene had their brains filled with fog. They couldn't help but deepen their guesses towards Chu Feng and Zhuge Lian's relationship. You want to kill Chu Feng to avenge your disciple. As his master, that is completely reasonable. However, Chu Feng is my own disciple. As his master, I protect my disciple. That is reasonable as well, right? Zhuge Lian spread open his hands, and he said that very casually. His seemingly casual words was like a lightning bolt in a clear sky, and a clap of thunder in a calm lake. Instantly the crowd went into an uproar. What? Chu Feng is Zhuge Lian's disciple. When did that happen? That isn't true, is it? Did I hear wrong? Leng Wuzui followed Zhuge Lian for such a long time, yet he didn't even formally accept him as his disciple. When did this Chu Feng become his disciple? Which part does he like about Chu Feng? Is it Chu Feng's martial cultivating talent? That means Chu Feng also has spirit power, and Zhuge Lian wants to foster him into a world spiritist. The crowd completely exploded, and they were making all sorts of guesses towards that matter. It happened too abruptly, and the people on scene were not prepared at all. It truly struck against their small hearts, and they could not follow what happened at that moment. Zhuge Lian, what kind of joke is this? You're saying that this boy is your disciple. Zhongli, you also had shock written all over his face, and he even disbelieved it. If it was said that he was strange, then Zhuge Lian was even stranger than him. If he had harsh requirements for accept disciples, then Zhuge Lian had even harsher requirements. He even thought that Zhuge Lian would not accept a single disciple for his entire life. Why did he suddenly accept a disciple, and it was even Chu Feng? What? Was I unclear on that matter? Zhuge Lian smiled, then said, "That's fine, I'll say it again. Everyone here listen up. Chu Feng is my only disciple. If anyone dares to even touch his fingers, That person is making me, Zhuge Liang, an enemy. No matter who it is, I will kill with no mistake. Zhuge Liang's voice was very thick, and it had an extremely powerful penetrating power. After piecing through the ocean of people, it echoed like a bell within the life and death stage. Everyone who heard it were stunned. At that very instant, many people were speechless. However, they got an answer in their hearts. They finally knew why Chu Feng dared to challenge Gong Lion, why he dared to destroy the inner court disciples' cultivation, and why he dared to kill Wu Jiu. It was because he had a quite impressive master, Zhuge Liang. Zhongli Yihu, are you still going to attack my disciple? Zhuge Liang said nonchalantly. HMPH. Zhongli Yihu's complexion turned purple and his facial features all twisted. They got as ugly as they possibly could, and with a cold snort, he was preparing to walk down the life and death stage, because he was not going to attack Zhuge Liang for Wu Jiu. Halt! But before letting Zhongli Yihu walk away, a spirit formation sealed the entire life and death stage and forcibly locked Zhongli Yihu inside it. Zhuge Liang, what do you want? In response, Zhongli Yihu slightly panicked. He never would have thought that even after giving that up, the old guy was still unwilling to let him go. I'm still asking you a question. Did you not hear it? Zhuge Liang was also displeased and his tone clearly turned cold. What do you want me to do? Zhongli Yihu was truly terrified. Within the Azure Dragon School, it could be said that he wasn't afraid of the heavens nor the earth, but he was only afraid of a single person, and that was Zhuge Liang. No matter it was methods or cultivation, he was inferior to him. If you don't understand, I can remind you. Give up any thinking of harming Chu Feng. If Chu Feng meets with any troubles, the first person I will look for will be you. At that time, there will be no one who can protect you. Zhuge Liang said that extremely loudly, and he did not care about how Zhongli Yihu felt. Everyone couldn't help but inhale a breath of cool air when they saw that scene. Within the Azure Dragon School, it was likely that only Zhuge Liang dared to speak to Zhongli Yihu like that. Okay, I promise that I will not touch Chu Feng in the future. The unexpected thing was that when facing Zhuge Liang, Zhongli Yihu did not refute, and he gave in when he was confronted by the difficult situation in front of the crowd. How would people know that deep within Zhongli Yihu's heart, he was completely horrified by Zhuge Liang? Only those who saw Zhuge Liang's ruthless methods could feel that. What was face in front of that horror? It was not even worth a penny. Ho, that's more like it. Zhuge Liang smiled while being proud of himself and following his laugher. The spirit formation that enveloped the life and death stage also disappeared. Zhongli Yihu had no more face, and he didn't remain there anymore. He leaped forward with flying speed and left the life and death stage, then disappeared from everyone's line of sight. After that, Zhuge Liang swept his gaze over the crowd surrounding the stage. At the end, his eyes were locked on the director of the Inner Court Punishment Department, Liu Chenjin. At that instant, Liu Chenjin's face greatly changed, and his body couldn't help but quiver. His heart also pounded with bangs, and large amounts of cold sweat also started to flow down from his forehead. He never would have thought that Chu Feng would have Zhuge Liang behind his back. He was an existence that the entire Azure Dragon School feared. He was truly terrified, so much that his body was trembling. However, after Zhuge Liang spoke, only then did he know that a calamity was facing his way. So it's you who wants to punish my disciple. I. As he faced Zhuge Liang's interrogation, Liu Chenjin's jaws trembled and his tongue was in a knot. He could not even say a complete sentence. Asterisk whoosh asterisk suddenly, Zhuge Liang, who was on the life and death stage, waved his hand. With a bang, Liu Chenjin, who was several hundred meters away, got thrown back. When he landed on the ground, blood came out from nose and mouth. His face swelled up, and there was even a blood-red palm mark that was deeply imprinted there. Elder Zhuge, have mercy. Elder Zhuge, have mercy. I had eyes but did not recognize Mount Tai, and I didn't know that Chu Feng was your disciple. If I did know, even if I had the nerves, I wouldn't dare. After being slapped through the air, Liu Chenjin quickly kneeled on the floor and did not care what the gazes of the crowd was. He endlessly kowtowed with his hands clasped towards huge Lian, who was on the stage and loudly begged for his life. As they looked at that scene, no one felt that Liu Chenjin lost any face. Rather, they felt that it was completely reasonable. When facing huge Lian, who did not dare to follow what he had to say, even Zhongli Yihu did not dare to refute, not to mention a mere inner court elder. Is there anyone else who has any complaints towards Chu Feng? Huge Lian swept his icy gaze towards his surroundings. His cold glare shot everywhere and his domineering air was revealed. At that instant, who would dare to speak, no matter if they had their complaints towards Chu Feng or were displeased towards him? Everyone shut their mouth and subconsciously walked one step back. It was as if it represented that they did not dare to have any complaints towards Chu Feng, nor did they dare to have any harmful thoughts towards Zhuge Lian's disciple. As he looked at that, Zhuge Lian nodded his head in satisfaction, then walked next to Su Rou and said, "Su Rou, you have done a good deed for my disciple earlier by protecting him. I reward you with this." Radiance flickered on Zhuge Lian's waist, and a dark green medicine appeared in his palm. That medicine was too beautiful. It was sparkling, translucent, and light revolved around it. It was as shiny as a treasure. And the most important thing was that the energy that it contained was extremely huge. Even the surrounding air slowly wiggled like it was trembling, because what the medicine contained was profound power. Profound medicine. Everyone was greatly shocked. Even the core elders revealed expressions of admiration, because it was a profound medicine. It was even a high-quality profound medicine, and its price was extremely high. It could be said to be both expensive and rare. It was treasure that could not be easily found, and one had to find it with luck. It had endless great effects for people in the profound realm. Thank you, Elders Huge. Even Su Rou's eyes lit up when saw the profound medicine. On her absolutely beautiful face, she brimmed with the shine of happiness. She carefully held the profound medicine on her hands. Profound medicine was simply too expensive, especially high-quality ones. Even with Su Rou's status, she could not use them as she wished. In reality, even many people in the profound realm could not even afford a single low-quality profound medicine. From that, one could tell how high the profound medicine prices were. Elder Lai, thank you as well. Zhuge Lian took out another high-quality profound medicine and gave it to Elder Lai. Elder Lai lightly smiled, and the wrinkles on his face were all pressed into a smile. As people looked at him, he looked just like a steamed bun, but he was a happy steamed bun. Zhuge Lian's actions caused many disciples and elders break from greed. High-quality profound medicine were priceless treasure to them. However, Zhuge Lian gave them away so generously. However, the one who coveted them the most was Chu Feng. They were profound medicine. Profound medicine. They were even high-quality profound medicine. And the profound power that a single one of them contained was not even able to be compared by origin beads. If he swallowed one, who knew what level of cultivation he would reach, seemingly being able to feel the probing of Chu Feng's spirit power, Zhuge Lian fiercely shot Chu Feng a glance. After all, the actions he was doing were for helping Chu Feng. He wanted everyone to know that he would not forgive those who wanted to take care of Chu Feng. However, he would certainly reward those who helped Chu Feng. On the side, he was telling the core disciples and the core elders of the Azure Dragon School that between Chu Feng and Gong Lion, they could not choose Chu Feng, but they better not lean too much towards Gong Lion, because Chu Feng had his master supporting him behind his back. Stinking boy, return with me. Zhuge Lian grabbed Chu Feng's shoulder, and after the rippling of the surrounding air, the two of them disappeared like demons. Indeed, normal people could not perform methods that world spiritists could. After Zhuge Lian left, the quiet crowd exploded with a boom like a pot exploding, and all sorts of discussions were initiated like boiling water. This is quite serious. Not only is Chu Feng a genius, he even has Zhuge Lian as his master. In the future, who would dare to touch him? That was certainly heavenly big news. Chu Feng was a genius, as he was able to kill Wu Jiu, who was at the 5th level of the origin realm, with his cultivation of the 1st level of the origin realm. After killing Wu Jiu, he invisibly replaced Wu Jia's position on the Azure Dragon leaderboard and became the 9th on the Azure Dragon leaderboard. However, Chu Feng was only 15 years old, and on the Azure Dragon leaderboard, he was undoubtedly the youngest one there. If everyone on the Azure Dragon leaderboard were geniuses, Chu Feng would be the youngest one with the most potential. After all, even Gong Lion could not defeat the strong as the weak, and be able to kill his opponent who was 4 levels above him. Also, not only was Chu Feng a genius, there was a huge shield behind his back. It was a person who even the head of the Azure Dragon School did not dare to offend. The world spiritist Zhuge Liang. From that day forth, everyone in the Azure Dragon School had to reevaluate Chu Feng. After all, Chu Feng had such strong talent. With the short time of less than 2 months, he entered the 1st level of the origin realm, from the 7th level of the spirit realm. Only heaven would know what realm he would reach at the arranged battle in 10 months. With his overwhelming battle strength, perhaps he could really block 3 strikes from Gong Lion in the arranged battle in 1 year. And according to the agreement, as long as Chu Feng was able to block 3 strikes from Gong Lion, he would win. At that time, Gong Lion would need to suicide. Before, people felt that Chu Feng was looking to die when he challenged Gong Lion, and his chance of victory was 0. However, after today, they discovered that there was great suspense for the arranged battle. The one who would win and the one who would lose was unknown. As everyone in the core zone were discussing about Chu Feng, he was brought to the old palace by Zhuge Liang. "Master, thank you for saving me." Chu Feng paid his respects to Zhuge Liang. "Don't call me master yet. How much did you comprehend in the book that I gave you?" Zhuge Liang's tone suddenly turned cold, as if none of the gentleness before happened. That feeling was as though if Chu Feng did not meet his requirements, he would really kill Chu Feng. However, how would Chu Feng, who was already full of confidence, be afraid of Zhuge Liang's request? With a thought, gas flowed, and a spirit formation that surrounded himself, and Zhuge Liang appeared. After doing that, Chu Feng smiled and said, "Master, look at me. How is your disciple's comprehension? You can use the spirit formation so proficiently already." At that moment, as he looked at the spirit formation that was surrounding him, Zhuge Liang was quite stunned. Although the white-colored cloak covered his face, Chu Feng could still feel his shocked and happy appearance. "Heh." Chu Feng chuckled, and he didn't really reply, however. He silently acknowledged Zhuge Liang's words. After all, at that moment, his skilled spirit formation was already being displayed in front of Zhuge Liang. "Chu Feng, can you control any changes to this spirit formation?" Suddenly, Zhuge Liang spoke again. "Master, what kind of change do you want?" Chu Feng asked. "Changes in terms of form." Zhuge Liang said. Just as Zhuge Liang finished speaking, the spirit formation that surrounded them disappeared, and several more spirit formations reappeared. This time, the spirit formation did not lock the two within, and it only appeared on Chu Feng's hand. At first, the translucent spirit formation was only as big as his palm, and it spiraled in Chu Feng's hand. However, as Chu Feng continued to control it, it gradually left his hand and slowly largened. Occasionally it was rectangular, occasionally it was circular, and occasionally it was even a 5-cornered star. It truly changed as he wished. There were only things that he could not imagine, but nothing that he could not do. "Chu Feng, are you competent in the world spirit compass?" Zhuge Liang asked again. Chu Feng nodded and took out the world spirit compass. He stated what the things on it were, and what the various symbols represented. Under Egge's guidance, he knew it like the back of his hand. After that, Zhuge Liang asked Chu Feng some other questions, and they were knowledge recorded on the book that he gave him. Even if Egge wasn't there, he could easily answer the questions. His analysis on the meanings within were extremely thorough. Good, good, good. After the examination, Zhuge Liang did not say too much, but he said 3 goods. However, those 3 words were enough to express his current shocked feelings. "I, Zhuge Liang, wanted to find a person who was worthy enough for me to pass my techniques down to him. I searched for half my life, and finally, I found a qualified disciple. As Zhuge Liang looked at Chu Feng who was in front of him, he kept on nodding. Although Chu Feng carried a slight bit of hope before, currently, Chu Feng's performance completely surpassed his expectations. "Master, let me pay you my respects." Chu Feng half kneeled on the floor and clasped his hands together. He paid his respects to Zhuge Liang as a disciple towards his master. "You are naturally intelligent, and in the future, you will certainly become an impressive world spiritist with achievements that will certainly be above me. However, sadly, I can only guide you but not teach you. However, if you are willing to, you can still call me master." Zhuge Liang bent his back, went up, and supported Chu Feng up. "You are my master, my only master," Chu Feng said with an extremely firm tone, and within his tone it was full of respect. "Ha ha, good, I really am not mistaken." Although Zhuge Liang said that on the surface, obviously, he liked the last few words that Chu Feng said. After all, any able person liked to find a talented disciple for passing their skills down. Coincidentally, Zhuge Liang was an able person, and Chu Feng was a talented disciple. After that, Zhuge Liang put his hand on the cosmos sack which was on his waist, and the symbols moved as it radiated with light. A handful of origin beads appeared in his palm. With a glance, Chu Feng could tell that there were 100 origin beads there. "Fenger, the date for the battle between you and Gong Lion is nearing. As your master, I can help you with anything. Take these origin beads as I believe that they will help you a bit." "Thank you, master." Chu Feng took the origin beads into his hands. He already knew that Zhuge Liang was quite wealthy, but he never would have thought that he was so generous and gave him so many origin beads all at once. Chu Feng was moved in his heart. He was extremely moved. He didn't act like the 100 origin beads were nothing because of Zhuge Liang's wealth. After all, they were still quite expensive objects. Although the rumored offerings from the Azure Dragon School to Zhuge Liang was a single profound bead every month, as Chu Feng understood more, he felt that they were only rumors. The reality might very well not be as such. He knew that the top-quality profound medicine, the profound bead, was extremely rare. It could be said to be a priceless treasure, because the profound power that the profound bead contained was simply too huge. It had the same effect as spiritual beads had to people at the spirit realm, as those who were at the 9th level of the profound realm had no way of making a breakthrough. It would help them pass that impassable barrier. It would help them grasp totally new power as they entered the heaven realm that allowed them to travel towards the horizon. From that, it could be seen how precious profound beads were. Not to mention the second-rate Azure Dragon School. Even the first-rate school, the Lingyun School, could not be so rich as to offer a world spiritist with a single profound bead every month. So, Chu Feng felt that the guesses towards Zhuge Liang's offering were only rumors, not to mention a profound bead every month. Even a high-quality profound medicine every month was a huge expense. After all, to normal people, high-quality profound medicine was already an invaluable treasure. Or else the big miss of the Vermilion Bird City Lord, Suru, wouldn't have been so happy when she saw the high-quality profound medicine that was given to her by Zhuge Liang. After putting the 100 origin beads away, Chu Feng was very joyful in his heart. He yearned to know what realm he would enter after he used the costly origin beads to help his cultivation. Also, within the gaze that he looked at Zhuge Liang with, he could not avoid but have some more respect and gratitude that came from his heart. Although Zhuge Liang was quite rich after all, he still needed to cultivate himself. Besides, if others were rich, that belonged to them. If they gave anything to you, that was because he had good impressions, and if they didn't, that was reasonable as well, because no one owed anyone anything. However, after knowing Chu Feng for not long, Zhuge Liang gave such a huge help to Chu Feng. It could be seen that he had extremely good impressions of him. "You are slightly stubborn, and you need to moderate yourself on that, or else you will pay a big price for that. However, You don't need to worry too much. You can fight Gong Lion at ease. Even if you lose, I will still protect your life." Zhuge Liang spoke again. He. Chu Feng only chuckled at Zhuge Liang's words. He could not say that he was aiming to kill Gong Lion right. However, after seeing Chu Feng's skill in the spirit formation, Zhuge Liang showed his fondness towards Chu Feng without concealing it. The master and the disciple chatted for a long time, and the more they chatted, the more they got into it. At the end, Zhuge Liang even personally cooked a table of good dishes for Chu Feng. Although they were not sumptuous, they looked, smelt, and tasted great. The most important thing was that a world spiritist, Zhuge Liang, personally made the dishes. It was likely that the people in the world who could eat the things that he made were extremely few. As they ate and drank, the master and disciple chatted even more merrily. Zhuge Liang, who always gave people a feeling of ruthlessness, opened up a wall in his heart towards Chu Feng. It could be seen that he truly didn't see Chu Feng as an outsider, but as his own trusted disciple. Chu Feng found out that when Zhuge Liang was young, his family situation wasn't bad. However, because his parents offended a big character from the Lingyun school, they had no choice but to escape for their lives. But they did not expect that someone would sell them out as they were escaping. When the people from that big school came chasing after them, they did not leave any of his family alive. Only Zhuge Liang himself was able to escape. The price of his escape was the heartless killing of his parents. From then on, Zhuge Liang extremely rarely trusted anyone. It could be said that there was a type of coldness towards outsiders deep within his heart, like a wall that separated. That was quite fine when he was young. However, when age caught up, one would always want to find a person to rely on, so that they would have someone who could pass their abilities down. Zhuge Liang was no exception. Originally, Leng Wuzui gave him good impressions. However, later on, he discovered that Leng Wuzui was too selfish, and he was too extreme when he did things. He had no friends, and he only had tools that he used. He was not worthy for Zhuge Liang's trust. However, in terms of talent, within the Green Province, especially within the Azure Dragon School, it was quite challenging to find a young man like Leng Wuzui. So, Zhuge Liang was in a difficult situation. He was hesitating whether to pass his legacy down to Leng Wuzui. But just at that time, Chu Feng walked into Zhuge Liang's line of sight. In reality, Zhuge Liang already found out about Chu Feng's identity. He discovered that despite Chu Feng was a bit rash when he did things, his actions were not for harming. Rather, in many situations, he stirred up great calamities for the ones close to him. Perhaps from the eyes of an outsider, Chu Feng's actions were done brainlessly. However, Zhuge Liang strangely liked that. As for the matter about Leng Wuzui, it was truly only a test that Zhuge Liang gave him. But sadly at the end, Leng Wuzui disappointed Zhuge Liang. Master, after the spirit connection contract between world spiritists and world spirits, would a situation like this happen? Because of a certain reason, the world spirit gets heavily injured and disappears from the world spirit space. The world spiritist can't feel any trace of its aura, but the spirit connection contract still remains. As Zhuge Liang was excited, Chu Feng inquired information about Eggy. There can be a situation like that. After the contract between a world spirit and a world spiritist, it would be difficult for them to return to the spiritual world, unless the contract gets cancelled or if the world spirit has overwhelming methods. For their entire lives, they would need to remain in the world spiritist spiritual world, which also means within the world spirit space. Sometimes, the situation that you just stated would happen. After all, world spirits would fight for their world spiritist, and from the battles, they would usually get injured. However, if the world spirit contract isn't destroyed, that means that the world spirit still lives. They would just be greatly injured and they would need a while to recover. Zhuge Liang said, "A while to recover. How long would that time be?" Chu Feng was crazily happy in his heart. As long as Eggy was fine, he would not be worried. That's quite hard to say. If it's quick, then 10 or 8 years. If it's slow, then up to 100 years. Zhuge Liang said indifferently. What, that long? After hearing those words, Chu Feng was as though he suffered from a huge blow. If it's quick, then 10 or 8 years. If it's slow, then up to 100 years. Did that mean that he could not see Eggy for at least 10 years, or even possibly for his entire lifetime? Why are you so nervous? You didn't make a contract with a world spirit already, did you? Zhuge Lian asked with a smirk. Of course not, I'm just curious. Chu Feng quickly shook his head. Eggy was his secret and he could not let anyone know that yet. I also thought that you wouldn't be so preposterous. World spirits are extremely proud creatures, and they are extremely smart as well. Their intelligence are not lower than humans, perhaps even higher. To be honest, your master, me, already has a world spirit like that in my spiritual world. However, he is still not willing to establish a contract with me, even after giving him offerings up until now. Although creating a contract with a world spirit will have great help towards one's control in the spirit formation power, and also their own cultivation, while also being the dream of countless world spiritists. In reality, it is extremely difficult to gain a world spirit's approval. Within Zhuge Lian's tone was pride, but also disappointment. He was proud because, as a world spiritist, he successfully communicated with a world spirit, and the world spirit had interest in creating a contract with him. However, he was disappointed because, despite having interest in creating a contract with him, after all, he still hadn't formed the contract, which also meant that he hadn't gotten the approval of the world spirit. In addition, he was quite old, and he truly did not know whether he could create a contract with that world spirit in his remaining years. After hearing Zhuge Lian's words, Chu Feng was hiddenly glad. Glad because he had a good family, as they sealed 2 world spirits within his world spirit space. He even made a contract with one of them. Or else, if he had to search for some by himself, who knew how long it would take him to make a contract with a world spirit? If he didn't handle things correctly, he would be like Zhuge Lian, and perhaps even be unable to establish a contract with a world spirit for his entire life. However, as he was grateful towards his own family, Chu Feng couldn't help but remember about them. From the clues that he saw currently, his family, or at least his parents, were extremely strong, and the methods that they had defied common sense. There was no one who was so strong in the past several hundred years on the continent of the 9 provinces. So he knew that his parents were not from the 9 provinces. The world was huge, and the continent of the 9 provinces was only the corner of an iceberg within that world. Chu Feng did not know what the world was like outside, but he could imagine that it was extremely dangerous. So dangerous that his parents, who were so strong, had no choice but to entrust him to others. Master, if the world spirit really gets heavily injured, other than letting themselves recover on their own, can we world spiritists do nothing about it? After more chatting, Chu Feng cleverly changed the topic back to that. There is, of course there is, the reason why world spirits create a contract with world spiritists, and are willing to abandon their own home in which they lived, and also to be imprisoned in such a small spiritual world, is because the world of the living has great benefits for them. The life of a world spirit is very long. They aren't like us, where our lives do not pass 100 years, no matter how much stronger our cultivation is. World spirits can at least live for 300 years. According to rumors, some stronger world spirits can even live for several thousand years. So that is why world spirits are willing to establish a contract with world spiritists and to live within the small spiritual world. When the world spiritist dies, the contract gets cancelled, and the world spirit would be able to return to the world of world spirits. At that time, everything that they got from the world spiritist becomes their own footing in the world of world spirits. There are endless and never-ending benefits that world spirits can get from the world of living. For example, other than the basic source energy which can raise their cultivation, there are also many other things that could strengthen their bodies, or even things like special blood. Like you said, after the world spirit gets injured, disappears from the spiritual world, and has no way to contact the world spiritist, what should you do? Actually, there are methods. From what I know, there's a special fruit called the spirit fruit. The spirit fruit has a certain effect for world spiritists. They can increase the quality of their spirit formation and also strengthen the power of their spirit power. However, it has an even greater effect for world spirits, and that is to be able to replenish their power. Spirit fruit, where does that thing exist? Where can you buy it at? Chu Feng rejoiced, and it was as though the clouds were pushed to the side, and the sun could be seen. He finally saw the hope for saving Eggy. Do you think such a precious thing like spirit fruits can be bought? But from what I know, in the 9 provinces, there is indeed a place where there are spirit fruits. Zhuge Liang said. Where? Chu Feng closely asked. That's right. The is one of the 9 provinces of the 9 provinces. There's a World Spirit Guild there, and the World Spirit Guild can be said to be the area where the most number of world spiritists gather within the 9 provinces. At that area, world spiritists can gain a lot of good things. Within the World Spirit Guild, there's a special fruit planted there, and that would be the spirit fruit. Zhuge Liang said. Master, what's the distance between there and the Azure province? Chu Feng anxiously asked. Although he had some idea about the Azure province, he did not know a lot about the 9 provinces. The and the Azure province are neighbors. Although the road isn't too near, if we go back and return, half a month would be enough. Zhuge Liang smiled, then asked Chu Feng, You like this spirit fruit quite a bit, huh? Of course I like it. Didn't you say that the spirit fruit would increase one's spirit formation quality and spirit power as well? Chu Feng smiled and said, Of course. But on that topic, with your current proficiency in the spirit formation technique, it's time to take an exam for a white cloak. Zhuge Liang said. White cloak, the white cloak you're wearing, what use does it have? Chu Feng asked, even though he knew. Haha, you wouldn't know about this. This is a symbol of a world spiritist status and strength. If you want to get such recognition, you would need to take an exam to get it with your own strength. According to the strength of the world spiritist, there are 3 types of world spiritist levels: white cloak, gray cloak, and blue cloak. The white cloak is the easiest to get. From what you can do right now, it shouldn't be too hard for you to get a white cloak and become a white cloak world spiritist. When compared to the white cloak, the gray cloak is a lot harder. There are essence requirements for the spirit formation power, and within the Azure province, there are no more than 2 gray cloak world spiritists. The first is the world spiritist in the #1 school, the Lingyun school, and the other one is the world spiritist in the Qilin Prince's mansion. Zhuge Liang said extremely solemnly. As he mentioned those 2 people, he could not avoid having some respect in his tone. What? There are no more than 2 gray cloak world spiritists, and they have such impressive statuses. Chu Feng was greatly shocked in his heart, because the girl he saw in the White Tiger mountain range was clearly also a gray cloak world spiritist. As for the blue cloak world spiritist, those people are like legends. There is no one like that in the Azure province, and there aren't even any in the other provinces. Only the has such a legendary world spiritist. Zhuge Liang continued saying. However, after comparing what Zhuge Liang said to what Eggy said, there were 2 less types. They were the purple cloak after the blue cloak, and also the gold cloak. From that, it could be seen that in terms of experience, Eggy was superior to Zhuge Liang. Why do so many world spiritists gather in the? Is there something special about it? Chu Feng muttered to himself. You are correct. That could be said to be the sacred land of world spiritists. The 2 strongest world spiritist powers in the 9 provinces are located there. The first one is the World Spirit Guild, and the strongest world spiritists in the 9 provinces are gathered there. All exams for the statuses of world spiritists need to be done there. The other one is the Jai clan. Although the Jai clan isn't as big as the World Spirit Guild, every single clan member are born with spirit power, and they are quite an impressive, noble clan. According to rumors, they were the masters of the, but because there were too few clan members, the power to govern was slowly given to the World Spirit Guild. However, they are still a power that cannot be underestimated, and the 2 of them share the sacred land of the. Zhuge Liang said. I see. It seems like the world is really quite huge. There is even such a special clan, and every clan member is born with spirit power. Chu Feng hiddenly sighed in admiration. Not 1 in 10,000 had spirit power, and in the Azure province, every person who had spirit power were viewed as a genius. But he never would have thought that there was such an impressive clan in his neighboring province. Every single clan member had spirit power. What kind of idea was that, and how strong would that clan be? Ho, you are correct. The world is huge, and there are countless powerful people in it. There are many clans with special blood, and other than the Jai clan there is an even stronger clan in the 9 provinces. Zhuge Liang said. An even stronger clan. Master, what clan is that? Chu Feng was extremely curious. The Jai clan could already make one shocked. What would a clan that was even stronger than that look like? Ir is the current overlord of the 9 provinces, the Jiang dynasty. The Jiang dynasty is a special clan. The reason why they called themselves as the Jiang dynasty is because every single person in the Jiang dynasty has strong power from their blood. They have terrifying battle prowess that normal people do not have. That is also why the Jiang dynasty can be the overlord of the 9 provinces for so long and not wither away. Zhuge Liang continued explaining. The Jiang dynasty is a special clan. No wonder. Chu Feng learned another piece of news that shocked him. Looking at the date, the monthly World Spiritist White Cloak exam that the World Spirit Guild holds is quickly approaching. Go back and prepare. I'll bring you to the tomorrow morning, Zhuge Liang said. Really? After hearing those words, Chu Feng not of a single trace of shock. Rather, he was extremely and madly happy, because even if Zhuge Liang didn't say that, he was also planning to go to the reason why Chu Feng wanted to go to. They was not for any white cloak exam for world spiritists, because if they were talking about status, he already had a world spirit gray cloak in his cosmos sack. That gray cloak was certainly more expensive than the white cloak, and the status that it represented was even more scary. Naturally, what attracted Chu Feng to was the spirit fruit, the strange thing that could wake Eggy up.